The genesis of the rattling subspecies traces back to humanity's darkest epoch, when the galaxy burned under the chaos of the Age of Strife. During this tumultuous period spanning roughly from the 25th to 30th millennia, countless human colonies found themselves severed from Terra and each other, their fragile connections dissolved by warp storms that raged across the galaxy like cosmic wildfire. Cut off from the broader human diaspora, these isolated populations began their own evolutionary journeys, shaped by the unique environments of their adopted worlds. On a handful of low-gravity worlds blessed with fertile soils and temperate climates, human settlers discovered paradises that seemed almost too good to be true. These planets, scattered across various sectors of what would later become the Imperium, shared certain crucial characteristics. Gravitational fields typically ranging from 0.6 to 0.8 standard Terran gravity, abundant rainfall, rich agricultural potential, and remarkably stable ecosystems. The combination of reduced gravitational stress and plentiful food sources created ideal conditions for a specific type of human adaptation. The initial generations of colonists on these worlds lived lives of relative comfort compared to their counterparts struggling on harsher planets. Food was never scarce, the climate remained hospitable, and the reduced gravity made physical labor less taxing. However, this apparent blessing carried within it the seeds of genetic transformation. Over the course of several millennia, isolated from the broader human gene pool and subject to consistent environmental pressures, these populations began to diverge from baseline humanity in measurable ways. The first noticeable changes appeared in stature. Children born to the third and fourth generations of colonists showed a marked tendency towards shorter adult heights, with the average decreasing by several centimeters per generation. This reduction in size proved advantageous in the low-gravity environment, allowing for more efficient movement and reduced caloric requirements. The skeletal structure adapted accordingly, becoming more compact and dense despite the reduced gravitational stress, a paradoxical development that spoke to the complex interplay of genetics and environment. Simultaneously, metabolic changes began manifesting across these populations. The abundance of food resources and the reduced energy expenditure required for movement in low gravity created selective pressures favoring individuals with enhanced metabolic efficiency. Those who could process nutrients more effectively and maintain stable blood sugar levels despite irregular eating patterns found themselves better adapted to their environment. This metabolic enhancement became particularly pronounced in the processing of carbohydrates and fats, allowing these populations to derive maximum nutritional benefit from their planet's agricultural bounty. Perhaps the most remarkable adaptation that emerged during this period was the development of exceptional hand-eye coordination and visual acuity. The low-gravity environment, combined with the need to hunt small game and tend to delicate agricultural work, favored individuals with superior fine motor control and precise aim. Over generations, these traits became increasingly pronounced, eventually reaching levels that far exceeded baseline human capabilities. The neural pathways controlling hand-eye coordination developed enhanced myelination, while the visual cortex showed increased density in areas responsible for depth perception and target tracking. The genetic mechanisms underlying these changes involved complex interactions between multiple gene clusters. The HMOX1 gene, responsible for growth hormone regulation, underwent subtle mutations that reduced overall body size while maintaining proportional development. Similarly, variants in the ACTN3 gene, which affects muscle fiber composition, became prevalent, favoring fast twitch muscle development that enhanced reflexes and precision movements. The cumulative effect of these genetic shifts, combined with epigenetic factors influenced by diet and environment, created a stable breeding population that consistently produced offspring with these enhanced characteristics. By the 28th millennium, these populations had stabilized into a distinct human subspecies. Standing typically between 1.2 and 1.4 meters in height, they possessed proportionally larger hands and feet relative to their body size, enhanced metabolic rates that allowed them to consume significant quantities of food without weight gain, and marksmanship abilities that bordered on the supernatural by baseline human standards. Their enhanced dexterity extended beyond simple aim to encompass all forms of fine motor control, making them exceptional at tasks requiring precision and delicacy. The development of natural stealth abilities represented another crucial adaptation that emerged during this formative period. The combination of reduced body mass, enhanced proprioception, and an instinctive understanding of movement in low-gravity environments allowed these populations to move with remarkable quietness. Their smaller stature proved advantageous for concealment, while their enhanced spatial awareness helped them navigate terrain without disturbing their surroundings. These abilities likely developed as hunting adaptations, allowing them to approach small game animals without detection, but would later prove invaluable in military applications. When the Great Crusade finally reached these isolated worlds in the early 31st millennium, Imperial forces encountered populations that were unmistakably human, yet distinctly different from baseline humanity. The initial contact protocols developed by the Administratum Xenobiology divisions required careful classification of these variants. The decision to categorize them as abhuman rather than mutant proved crucial to their survival and integration into Imperial society. The abhuman classification carried significant legal and social implications within Imperial doctrine. Unlike mutants, who were generally viewed with suspicion and often faced persecution or extermination, abhumans were recognized as stable human variants that had developed beneficial adaptations through natural evolutionary processes. This classification required demonstration of genetic stability across multiple generations, evidence of beneficial rather than detrimental mutations, and proof of continued fertility with baseline humans, albeit often with reduced compatibility. The imperial bureaucrats and geneticists who first studied these populations found compelling evidence for abhuman status. Genetic analysis revealed that while significant divergence had occurred, the fundamental human genome remained intact. The mutations were stable and heritable, producing consistent offspring generation after generation. Most importantly, the adaptations were clearly beneficial, enhancing rather than diminishing human capabilities in specific areas. The Adeptus Biologists conducted extensive studies to verify the stability of the rattling genome. Teams of geneticists spent years analyzing tissue samples, conducting breeding studies, and mapping the specific genetic variations that had emerged. Their findings confirmed that the mutations followed predictable patterns and showed no tendency toward further rapid evolution or genetic instability. The enhanced metabolism, improved coordination, and reduced stature all proved to be stable traits that bred true across multiple generations. Environmental factors played a crucial role in shaping the specific nature of rattling adaptations. Unlike other abhuman strains that developed in response to hostile environments requiring dramatic physical modifications, ratlings evolved in benign conditions that allowed for more subtle but equally significant changes. The low gravity reduced the structural requirements for their skeletal system, allowing for the compact, efficient build that characterizes the subspecies. The abundant food supply eliminated the need for adaptations focused on survival in harsh conditions, instead favoring traits that enhanced quality of life and specialized capabilities. The temperate climates of their homeworlds also influenced their physiological development. Without the need to adapt to extreme temperatures, radiation exposure, or toxic atmospheres, rattling evolution focused on optimization rather than survival. Their enhanced dexterity developed not as a response to environmental threats, but as an adaptation that maximized their effectiveness in their comfortable ecological niche. This pattern of adaptation through optimization rather than necessity would later distinguish ratlings from other abhuman strains when Imperial forces began systematic classification efforts. The social structures that developed on rattling worlds during the Age of Strife also contributed to their genetic development. Communities organized around agricultural abundance and cooperative hunting encouraged traits like precision, patience, and attention to detail. Individuals who excelled at marksmanship and fine craftwork gained social advantages, creating selective pressures that reinforced these genetic tendencies. The resulting culture valued skill and precision over raw physical strength, further encouraging the development of the enhanced coordination that would become their defining characteristic. The discovery of multiple rattling populations across different sectors of the galaxy provided Imperial geneticists with valuable comparative data. Despite developing on separate worlds with no contact between populations, the various rattling communities showed remarkably consistent adaptations. This parallel evolution suggested that the environmental conditions present on their homeworlds created specific selective pressures that consistently favored the same types of genetic modifications. The consistency of these adaptations across isolated populations provided strong evidence for the stability and predictability of the rattling genome. Imperial documentation from this period reveals the careful consideration given to rattling classification. The Adeptus biologists weighed multiple factors in determining their status, including genetic stability, breeding compatibility with baseline humans, cognitive capacity, and potential utility to the Imperium. The evidence clearly supported abhuman classification, but the decision carried significant weight given the precedent it would set for future encounters with human variants. The enhanced metabolism that characterizes ratlings proved particularly intriguing to Imperial researchers. Unlike the accelerated metabolisms found in some mutant strains, which often led to shortened lifespans and genetic instability, the rattling variant appeared to enhance longevity while maintaining stability. Their ability to process large quantities of food efficiently, combined with their enhanced nutrient absorption, suggested adaptations that optimized rather than stressed their biological systems. This metabolic efficiency extended to their ability to maintain stable energy levels throughout extended periods of activity, a trait that would prove valuable in military applications. The integration of rattling populations into the expanding Imperium proceeded relatively smoothly compared to the often traumatic incorporation of other human variants. Their stable societies, agricultural expertise, and obvious utility as marksmen made them valuable additions to Imperial forces. The abhuman classification protected them from the persecution that might have befallen a population classified as mutant, while their obvious human origins and continued genetic compatibility with baseline humanity facilitated their acceptance within Imperial society. The physical manifestation of rattling evolution presents a fascinating study in adaptive optimization, where millennia of environmental pressures have sculpted a human variant perfectly suited to their ecological niche. Standing at an average height of 3 to 4 feet, ratlings possess a distinctly compact yet robust physique that immediately distinguishes them from baseline humanity. Their stature, while diminutive by Imperial standards, represents not a reduction in capability, but rather an optimization of form for their specific environmental conditions and specialized roles. The typical rattling male averages approximately 3.8 feet in height, with females slightly shorter at around 3.5 feet, though individual variation can see some specimens reaching nearly 4.5 feet or remaining as compact as 3 feet even. This reduced stature comes paired with a remarkably stocky build that concentrates significant muscle mass and bone density into their compact frames. Their torsos appear almost barrel-shaped, with broad shoulders and deep chests that house enlarged lung capacity relative to their overall size. This chest development proves essential for maintaining the steady breathing control that contributes to their legendary marksmanship abilities. The most immediately striking aspect of rattling anatomy lies in their disproportionately large hands and feet relative to their overall body size. Their hands, in particular, appear almost oversized when compared to baseline human proportions, with fingers that are both longer and more dexterous than might be expected from their compact frames. These enlarged appendages serve multiple crucial functions, providing enhanced grip strength for weapon handling while offering superior fine motor control for precision tasks. The increased surface area of their palms and fingers creates more contact points with surfaces, contributing to their exceptional stability when aiming firearms or performing delicate manipulations. Their feet follow a similar pattern of proportional enlargement, creating a broad, stable platform that enhances their natural balance and reduces ground pressure when moving across various terrains. The expanded foot structure distributes their body weight more effectively, allowing them to move silently across surfaces that might cause baseline humans to create noise through concentrated pressure points. The enlarged toe structure provides enhanced grip on uneven surfaces, while the broader heel offers improved shock absorption during movement. This foot configuration proves particularly advantageous when maintaining firing positions for extended periods, as the increased surface area reduces fatigue and improves overall stability. The skeletal structure of ratlings reflects their unique evolutionary pressures, featuring bones that are proportionally denser than those of baseline humans despite the reduced gravitational stress of their homeworlds. This increased bone density compensates for their smaller frame size while providing the structural integrity necessary to handle the recoil forces generated by Imperial weaponry. Their ribcage shows particular adaptation, with ribs that curve more dramatically to create a larger internal volume relative to their external dimensions. This configuration maximizes lung capacity while maintaining their compact profile, supporting both the enhanced cardiovascular efficiency required by their elevated metabolism and the breath control essential for precision shooting. The muscular development of ratlings emphasizes fast twitch muscle fibers concentrated in specific areas crucial to their specialized capabilities. Their forearms show particularly pronounced development, housing the complex musculature responsible for their exceptional hand-eye coordination and steady aim. The muscles controlling finger movement and wrist stability receive enhanced blood flow and neural innervation, allowing for the micro-adjustments necessary for precision marksmanship. Their shoulder and back muscles, while compact, possess remarkable endurance capabilities that allow them to maintain shooting positions for hours without significant fatigue. The metabolic rate of ratlings represents perhaps their most remarkable physiological adaptation, operating at a level significantly elevated above baseline human norms while maintaining perfect stability and control. This enhanced metabolism requires constant nutritional input, with the average ratling consuming between 4 to 6 meals daily to maintain optimal function. Their digestive system has adapted to process this increased food intake efficiently, featuring an enlarged stomach capacity relative to their body size and enhanced intestinal absorption rates that extract maximum nutritional value from consumed food. The cultural significance of food within rattling society stems directly from these metabolic requirements, but extends far beyond mere biological necessity. Ratlings have developed sophisticated culinary traditions that elevate food preparation to an art form, with master cooks holding positions of significant social status within their communities. Their enhanced sense of taste and smell evolutionary adaptations that help them identify optimal food sources and detect spoilage contribute to their reputation as exceptional chefs throughout the Imperium. The preparation and sharing of meals serves as the primary social bonding mechanism within rattling culture, with elaborate feast rituals marking important occasions and strengthening community ties. The metabolic efficiency of ratlings allows them to derive energy from a remarkably diverse range of food sources, making them highly adaptable to various deployment conditions across Imperial worlds. Their digestive system processes both plant and animal proteins with equal efficiency, while their enhanced liver function allows them to safely consume foods that might prove problematic for baseline humans. This dietary flexibility proves invaluable during extended military campaigns, where standard Imperial rations might be supplemented with local food sources of questionable quality. The enhanced sensory perception of ratlings extends across multiple sensory modalities, though their legendary eyesight receives the most attention due to its obvious military applications. Rattling visual acuity typically measures between 28 and 25 on standard Imperial testing scales, meaning they can clearly distinguish details at distances that would require magnification for baseline humans to perceive. Their eyes show several distinct anatomical modifications that contribute to this enhanced vision, including enlarged corneas that gather more light, increased lens flexibility that improves focusing speed and accuracy, and enhanced retinal density that provides greater detail resolution. The structure of rattling eyes reveals adaptations specifically suited for precision shooting and target acquisition. Their pupils demonstrate enhanced responsiveness to light changes, allowing rapid adjustment between different lighting conditions without the extended adaptation periods required by baseline humans. The muscles controlling eye movement show increased strength and precision, enabling them to track moving targets with minimal head movement and maintain visual lock on distant objects despite environmental distractions. Their binocular vision coordination surpasses baseline human capabilities, providing superior depth perception that proves crucial for accurate range estimation during combat situations. Beyond visual acuity, Ratlings possess enhanced proprioceptive awareness that contributes significantly to their marksmanship abilities. This heightened body awareness allows them to maintain perfect shooting posture and weapon alignment even under stress conditions that would compromise the accuracy of baseline human marksmen. Their nervous system processes positional feedback with exceptional speed and accuracy, enabling micro-corrections to stance and weapon positioning that occur below the threshold of conscious awareness. This proprioceptive enhancement extends to their ability to estimate distances, wind conditions, and trajectory adjustments through subtle environmental cues that escape the notice of less sensitive individuals. The legendary steadiness of rattling hands results from multiple physiological adaptations working in concert to eliminate the minor tremors and involuntary movements that affect baseline human precision. Their cardiovascular system maintains exceptionally stable blood pressure and heart rate, reducing the pulse-induced weapon movement that can compromise long-range accuracy. The neural pathways controlling hand and finger movement show enhanced myelination and reduced signal interference, allowing for smoother muscle control and more precise positioning. Their breathing patterns naturally synchronize with their shooting rhythm, creating a physiological state that optimizes accuracy during extended engagement periods. Comparative analysis with baseline humanity reveals significant differences in lifespan and reproductive patterns that reflect rattling adaptation to their unique environmental conditions. Ratlings typically enjoy lifespans that exceed baseline human averages by approximately 20 to 30%, with many individuals remaining active and capable well into their second century of life. This longevity appears linked to their enhanced metabolic efficiency and the reduced physical stress associated with their compact body structure. Their cardiovascular system shows remarkable resilience, with lower incidences of the heart disease and circulatory problems that commonly affect aging baseline humans. The reproductive biology of ratlings follows patterns that reflect their stable, agricultural lifestyle and abundant food resources. Rattling females typically reach sexual maturity slightly later than baseline humans, around 16 to 18 years of age, but maintain fertility for extended periods that can last well into their 80s or 90s. Pregnancy duration approximates baseline human gestation periods, though rattling infants are born at a more advanced developmental stage, with enhanced motor control and sensory awareness evident from birth. Litter sizes typically range from 1 to 3 offspring, with twins being relatively common compared to baseline human populations. The genetic compatibility between ratlings and baseline humans remains a subject of ongoing study within the Adeptus Biologies, with documented cases of successful interbreeding producing viable offspring. However, these hybrid children typically display intermediate characteristics rather than the full expression of rattling traits, and often experience reduced fertility in subsequent generations. The genetic mechanisms underlying rattling adaptations appear to require homozygous expression for full manifestation, meaning that the exceptional abilities that define the subspecies only appear in individuals who inherit the complete genetic package from both parents. Environmental adaptation capabilities demonstrate the remarkable flexibility of the rattling physiology beyond their optimal low-gravity, temperate homeworlds. While they perform best in conditions similar to their evolutionary environment, Ratlings show surprising resilience when deployed to diverse Imperial worlds with varying atmospheric compositions, gravitational fields, and climate conditions. Their enhanced metabolism allows for rapid acclimatization to new food sources and dietary requirements, while their compact build provides advantages in both high-gravity environments, where their lower center of mass improves stability, and low-gravity conditions, where their natural adaptations prove optimal. The respiratory system of Ratlings shows particular adaptability to varying atmospheric conditions, with enhanced oxygen processing efficiency that allows them to function effectively at altitudes that would compromise baseline human performance. Their enlarged lung capacity relative to body size provides oxygen reserves that support extended periods of physical activity, while their enhanced circulation ensures efficient oxygen delivery to critical muscle groups during combat operations. This respiratory efficiency proves particularly valuable during extended sniper operations, where controlled breathing patterns must be maintained for hours without compromising accuracy. Temperature regulation in Ratlings reflects their evolutionary origins on temperate worlds, though their compact build provides certain advantages in extreme conditions. Their higher surface area to volume ratio compared to baseline humans of equivalent mass allows for more efficient heat dissipation in warm environments, while their enhanced metabolic rate provides increased internal heat generation in cold conditions. However, extreme temperature variations can stress their system more quickly than baseline humans, requiring appropriate equipment and precautions during deployment to hostile environmental conditions. The immune system of Ratlings demonstrates enhanced resistance to foodborne pathogens and digestive ailments, reflecting their evolutionary adaptation to diverse food sources and their cultural emphasis on culinary experimentation. Their enhanced liver function provides superior toxin processing capabilities, while their digestive system shows increased resistance to bacterial infections and parasitic infestations. This immune enhancement proves valuable during military deployments, where sanitation conditions may be compromised and alternative food sources must be utilized for survival. The scattered worlds that gave birth to the rattling subspecies share remarkable environmental similarities despite their distribution across multiple sectors of the galaxy. These planets, numbering in the dozens throughout Imperial space, represent some of the most agriculturally productive and climatically stable worlds within the Emperor's domain. The gravitational fields of these worlds typically register between 0.6 and 0.8 standard Terran gravity, creating the low-gravity conditions that proved crucial to rattling evolution. This reduced gravitational stress, combined with naturally fertile soils and abundant freshwater resources, established the environmental foundation that allowed human settlers to thrive and eventually develop into their current abhuman form. The soil composition of rattling worlds demonstrates exceptional fertility that surpasses even the legendary agricultural worlds of the Imperium. Deep layers of nutrient-rich loam, often extending several meters below the surface, provide ideal growing conditions for a vast array of crop species. These soils typically contain elevated levels of organic matter, with complex microbial ecosystems that enhance nutrient cycling and plant growth. The mineral content includes optimal ratios of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium, along with trace elements that support robust plant development. Geological surveys conducted by Imperial agricultural assessors consistently rate rattling worlds among the most productive farming environments in known space. The climate patterns across rattling homeworlds follow predictable seasonal cycles with moderate temperature variations that rarely reach extremes harmful to agricultural production. Average temperatures typically range from 10 to 25 degrees Celsius throughout the year, with seasonal variations that provide the temperature differentials necessary for proper crop maturation cycles. Precipitation patterns deliver consistent moisture throughout growing seasons, with annual rainfall totals usually falling between 800 and 1200 millimeters distributed across regular seasonal patterns. These worlds rarely experience the devastating weather phenomena that plague many imperial agricultural centers, with severe storms, droughts, or temperature extremes occurring infrequently enough to be considered exceptional rather than routine challenges. The atmospheric composition of rattling worlds maintains stable oxygen levels that typically measure between 20 and 23%, slightly elevated compared to Terran standard, but well within the range that supports enhanced human metabolism. The atmospheric pressure generally registers at 0.9 to 1.1 standard atmospheres, creating comfortable breathing conditions that require no adaptation period for baseline humans, while supporting the enhanced respiratory efficiency that characterizes rattling physiology. The reduced atmospheric density, combined with the lower gravitational fields, contributes to the ease of movement and enhanced agility that rattlings demonstrate in their natural environment. Water resources on rattling worlds appear in abundance through extensive river networks, natural springs, and seasonal rainfall patterns that maintain consistent moisture levels throughout agricultural regions. The water quality typically exceeds imperial purity standards, with natural filtration through the fertile soils removing most contaminants while leaving beneficial minerals intact. Many rattling settlements center around natural springs or river confluences, taking advantage of both the water resources and the enhanced soil fertility found in these locations. The consistent availability of clean water eliminates the resource scarcity pressures that drive conflict on many imperial worlds, contributing to the peaceful, agricultural lifestyle that characterizes rattling society. The native ecosystems of rattling homeworlds support diverse plant and animal communities that provided early human settlers with abundant food sources beyond their agricultural efforts. Native fruit trees, nut groves, and edible root systems supplemented cultivated crops, while small game animals offered protein sources that helped sustain growing populations. The biodiversity of these worlds includes numerous species of birds, small mammals, and fish that proved suitable for human consumption, creating the hunting traditions that contributed to the development of rattling marksmanship skills. The ecological balance of these worlds remains remarkably stable, with predator-prey relationships and plant succession patterns that maintain themselves without requiring significant human intervention. The geological stability of rattling worlds contributes significantly to their agricultural productivity and long-term habitability. Seismic activity remains minimal on most rattling planets, with major earthquakes occurring rarely enough to pose little threat to permanent settlements or agricultural infrastructure. Volcanic activity, where present, typically manifests through dormant or extinct volcanic systems that contribute to soil fertility through ancient mineral deposits rather than posing active threats to inhabitants. The geological composition includes extensive sedimentary layers that support both agricultural development and the construction of underground storage facilities that rattlings use for food preservation and community gathering spaces. The most prominent of all rattling worlds stands the region known as the Moot, a semi-autonomous territory within the Imperium that serves as the political and cultural heart of rattling civilization. The Moot encompasses not a single planet, but rather a collection of star systems that received special recognition from the imperial government through ancient charter agreements dating back to the Great Crusade. These charters, granted in recognition of rattling military service and their unique agricultural expertise, established the legal framework that allows rattling worlds to maintain their traditional governance structures while remaining loyal components of the greater Imperium. The charter agreements that establish the Moot represent one of the most unusual political arrangements within imperial space, granting rattling worlds a degree of self-governance that exceeds the autonomy typically afforded to standard imperial worlds. These documents, sealed with the authority of the emperor himself during the early years of the Great Crusade, recognize the unique nature of rattling society and acknowledge their valuable contributions to imperial military forces. The charters guarantee rattling rights to maintain their traditional agricultural practices, elect their own local representatives, and organize their military contributions according to their own cultural preferences rather than standard Imperial Guard protocols. The political structure governing rattling worlds operates through a system of elected councils that combine traditional agricultural community organization with the administrative requirements of imperial compliance. Each rattling settlement elects representatives to local councils based on demonstrated expertise in agricultural management, military service, or community leadership. These local councils handle day-to-day governance issues, agricultural planning, and resource allocation decisions that affect their immediate communities. The council system emphasizes practical competence over hereditary privilege, with leadership positions typically filled by individuals who have proven their abilities through successful farming, distinguished military service, or exceptional skill in the culinary arts that form such an important part of rattling culture. Regional governance structures coordinate between multiple settlement councils to address larger-scale issues that affect entire continents or planetary systems. Regional assemblies bring together representatives from local councils to discuss agricultural coordination, trade arrangements, and military recruitment quotas required by imperial authorities. These assemblies operate through consensus-building processes that reflect rattling cultural values, emphasizing cooperation and shared decision-making. The regional level also handles coordination with imperial administrative offices, ensuring that rattling worlds meet their obligations for agricultural tithes and military recruitment while maintaining their traditional governance practices. The highest level of rattling political organization operates through the Moot Parliament, a body that represents all rattling worlds within their chartered territory and serves as the primary interface between rattling society and imperial government. The Parliament convenes annually to address issues affecting multiple worlds, coordinate large-scale agricultural production targets, and organize the military contributions that rattling worlds provide to Imperial Guard regiments. Parliamentary representatives are selected through a complex process that combines election by regional assemblies with traditional recognition of individuals who have achieved distinction in military service or agricultural innovation. Imperial authorities maintain oversight of rattling governance through appointed liaison officers who monitor compliance with imperial law while respecting the autonomy granted by ancient charters. These liaisons typically come from the administratum or Adeptus Militarum, with some positions filled by retired Imperial Guard officers who have served alongside rattling units and understand their unique military capabilities. The liaison system creates a buffer between rattling traditional governance and imperial bureaucracy, allowing both systems to function without excessive interference while ensuring that imperial requirements are met. The agricultural expertise that earned Ratlings their special status within the Imperium manifests through farming techniques that consistently produce yields exceeding those achieved on comparable imperial agricultural worlds. Rattling farmers employ sophisticated crop rotation systems that maintain soil fertility across multiple growing seasons while maximizing productive output. Their understanding of soil composition, plant nutrition, and pest management combines traditional knowledge passed down through generations with innovations developed through careful experimentation and observation. The intensive cultivation methods used on rattling worlds support population densities that would strain resources on less productive planets. Rattling agricultural communities organize around cooperative farming arrangements that pool resources, knowledge, and labor to maximize efficiency and productivity. Individual families maintain responsibility for specific plots or agricultural specializations, but community-wide coordination ensures optimal use of available land and resources. Seasonal labor sharing allows communities to mobilize large workforces for planting, harvesting, and processing activities that require intensive effort during specific time periods. These cooperative arrangements extend to food preservation and storage, with community facilities that can maintain agricultural surpluses through extended periods. The specialization within Ratling agriculture encompasses numerous crop varieties and farming techniques adapted to the specific conditions of their homeworlds. Grain production focuses on hardy varieties that thrive in the moderate climate conditions while providing the carbohydrate content necessary to support Ratling metabolic requirements. Vegetable cultivation includes both surface crops and root vegetables that take advantage of the deep, fertile soils characteristic of Ratling worlds. Fruit production encompasses both tree crops and seasonal varieties, with many Ratling communities developing unique cultivars that have become prized throughout Imperial space for their exceptional flavor and nutritional content. Livestock management on Ratling worlds emphasizes small animals that complement rather than compete with agricultural production for resources. Poultry operations provide both eggs and meat while consuming agricultural waste products and contributing to soil fertility through their droppings. Small ruminants graze on marginal lands unsuitable for crop production, converting native vegetation into protein sources while maintaining the ecological balance of natural areas. The integration of livestock with crop production creates sustainable agricultural systems that maximize resource utilization while maintaining environmental stability. The food processing and preservation techniques developed by Ratling communities represent sophisticated applications of traditional knowledge enhanced through generations of refinement. Ratling preservation methods maintain nutritional content and flavor quality through techniques that often surpass the capabilities of standard Imperial food processing facilities. Fermentation processes create preserved foods with enhanced nutritional profiles, while smoking and drying techniques produce concentrated food products suitable for military rations or long-term storage. The culinary expertise of Ratling food processors has led to trade relationships with other Imperial worlds seeking high-quality preserved foods and specialty ingredients. Trade relationships between Ratling worlds and other Imperial territories focus primarily on agricultural exports that take advantage of their exceptional productive capabilities. Ratling agricultural surpluses supply food requirements for nearby Imperial worlds with less favorable growing conditions, creating economic relationships that benefit both parties. Specialty food products, including preserved meats, fermented vegetables, and unique grain varieties, command premium prices in Imperial markets due to their superior quality and distinctive flavors. These trade relationships provide Ratling worlds with access to manufactured goods and raw materials not available locally, while contributing to Imperial food security. The integration of Ratling agricultural expertise into broader Imperial food production systems occurs through advisory roles and technical assistance programs coordinated by the Administratum. Ratling agricultural specialists serve as consultants for Imperial agricultural development projects, sharing their knowledge of soil management, crop selection, and farming techniques with baseline human populations. These programs have successfully improved agricultural productivity on numerous Imperial worlds, demonstrating the practical value of Ratling expertise beyond their own territories. The success of these advisory programs has reinforced Imperial recognition of Ratling contributions and supported the continuation of their special autonomous status. Military recruitment from Ratling worlds operates through traditional community selection processes that identify individuals with the marksmanship skills and temperament suitable for Imperial Guard service. Local councils coordinate with Imperial recruitment officers to ensure that military obligations are met while respecting community needs for agricultural labor and local defense. The recruitment process emphasizes voluntary service by individuals who demonstrate exceptional shooting abilities and express interest in military careers, rather than forced conscription that might disrupt agricultural communities. This approach ensures that rattling military units consist of motivated volunteers who represent the best of their subspecies' natural abilities. The relationship between rattling agricultural communities and their military obligations reflects the practical nature of their society and their understanding of their role within the broader Imperium. Agricultural planning takes into account the periodic absence of community members serving in Imperial Guard units, with labor-sharing arrangements that compensate for reduced local workforce during deployment periods. Military service is viewed as both a duty to the Emperor and an opportunity for individual advancement, with returning veterans often assuming leadership roles within their communities based on their expanded experience and proven capabilities. The formal incorporation of Ratlings into the Astra Militarum followed a gradual process that began during the latter stages of the Great Crusade and solidified throughout the early centuries of the Imperium. Unlike the mass conscription methods employed for baseline human populations, rattling integration required careful consideration of their unique physical characteristics, cultural practices, and exceptional specialized capabilities. The Adeptus Archives recognized that standard Imperial Guard recruitment and training protocols would fail to maximize the potential of these diminutive marksmen, necessitating the development of specialized procedures that could effectively harness their natural talents while maintaining military discipline and effectiveness. The initial assessment of rattling military potential occurred when Imperial forces first encountered these abhuman populations during compliance actions across their scattered homeworlds. Field commanders quickly recognized that despite their small stature, Ratlings possessed marksmanship abilities that far exceeded those of baseline human soldiers. Early combat reports documented instances of rattling hunters providing crucial sniper support during pacification operations, consistently achieving kill ratios that impressed even veteran Imperial Guard officers. These observations led to formal evaluations by Adeptus Archives assessment teams, who conducted extensive testing to quantify rattling capabilities and determine optimal methods for their military integration. The testing protocols developed for rattling evaluation focused primarily on marksmanship assessment, though they also examined physical endurance, psychological stability under stress, and adaptability to military discipline. Rattling candidates demonstrated accuracy levels that consistently exceeded Imperial Guard sniper standards, with many individuals achieving precision scores that approached those of specialized reconnaissance units. Their natural stealth capabilities proved equally impressive, with Ratlings demonstrating an ability to move undetected across various terrain types that surpassed the performance of baseline humans even after extensive training. These assessments confirmed that Ratlings possessed inherent abilities that could provide significant tactical advantages if properly incorporated into Imperial military forces. The recruitment practices established for rattling worlds acknowledged their unique social structures and the importance of maintaining agricultural productivity on their homeworlds. Rather than implementing the mass conscription levies used on standard Imperial worlds, the Adeptus Archives developed a volunteer-based recruitment system that worked through existing rattling community leadership structures. Local councils were assigned recruitment quotas based on population assessments and agricultural capacity, but the selection of specific individuals remained within community control. This approach ensured that essential agricultural workers remained available for food production, while identifying those ratlings most suited for military service. The tithe obligations imposed on rattling worlds reflected both their smaller populations compared to standard Imperial worlds and the specialized nature of their military contributions. Instead of providing massive numbers of baseline infantry, rattling worlds were required to supply smaller numbers of highly trained marksmen who would serve as specialist troops within larger Imperial Guard formations. The typical recruitment quota for a rattling world might range from several hundred to a few thousand individuals per standard decade, depending on planetary population and strategic requirements. These quotas were calculated to provide sufficient military manpower while ensuring that agricultural communities retained adequate workforce for food production. The recruitment process itself operated through community-based selection procedures that identified individuals with the temperament and skills necessary for military service. Local shooting competitions and hunting assessments provided opportunities for potential recruits to demonstrate their marksmanship abilities, while community leaders evaluated candidates for psychological suitability and commitment to imperial service. The voluntary nature of Ratling recruitment meant that military units received motivated individuals who had chosen military careers rather than reluctant conscripts, contributing to higher morale and better performance in combat situations. Training regimens for Ratling recruits required significant modifications to standard Imperial Guard protocols to accommodate their unique physiology and natural capabilities. The Adeptus Militarum established specialized training facilities on several Ratling worlds, staffed by experienced drill instructors who had worked with abhuman troops and understood the specific requirements for training diminutive soldiers. These facilities featured scaled equipment, modified obstacle courses, and specialized weapon ranges designed to maximize the effectiveness of Ratling training while maintaining the discipline and standards expected of Imperial Guard units. The physical conditioning programs developed for Ratling recruits emphasized endurance and agility rather than the raw strength training that characterized baseline human military preparation. Ratling physiology responded poorly to intensive strength training due to their compact muscle structure and enhanced metabolism, but excelled in programs that developed cardiovascular fitness and fine motor control. Training schedules incorporated frequent meal breaks to accommodate Ratling metabolic requirements, with specialized ration programs that provided the caloric intake necessary to support their enhanced metabolic rates during intensive training periods. Marksmanship training for Ratlings built upon their natural abilities while introducing military discipline and advanced shooting techniques. While most Ratling recruits arrived at training facilities with exceptional basic shooting skills developed through hunting and community competitions, military training focused on adapting these abilities to combat conditions. Training programs covered target identification under stress, shooting from concealed positions, range estimation in various environmental conditions, and coordination with other military units during combat operations. The advanced marksmanship capabilities of Ratlings allowed instructors to focus on tactical applications rather than basic shooting fundamentals. Stealth and reconnaissance training took advantage of Ratling natural abilities while introducing military fieldcraft techniques. Ratlings demonstrated an intuitive understanding of camouflage and concealment that required minimal instruction, but military training emphasized systematic approaches to reconnaissance, intelligence gathering, and communication with command elements. Training exercises simulated various combat environments, from urban settings to wilderness terrain, ensuring that Ratling units could operate effectively across the diverse conditions they might encounter during Imperial Guard deployments. The integration of advanced equipment into Ratling training programs required careful consideration of their physical limitations and specialized requirements. Standard Imperial Guard equipment often proved unsuitable for Ratling use due to size and weight considerations, necessitating the development of specialized gear designed for their diminutive stature. Long-law sniper rifles were modified with shorter stocks and adjusted trigger mechanisms to accommodate Ratling hand size, while camouflage equipment was redesigned to fit their compact frames. Communication equipment received similar modifications, with lightweight versions of standard Vox units that could be easily carried and operated by Ratling personnel. Command structure integration presented unique challenges that required innovative solutions to maintain military hierarchy while accommodating the physical realities of Ratling service. The height differential between Ratlings and baseline human officers created practical difficulties in traditional military formations, while the specialized nature of Ratling capabilities required command structures that could effectively utilize their unique skills. The Adeptus Munitorum developed modified organizational charts that placed rattling units under the command of officers specifically trained in abhuman troop management, often veterans who had previous experience working with specialized reconnaissance units. The development of mixed formations that combined rattling specialists with baseline human troops required careful consideration of tactical deployment and command relationships. Rattling marksmen were typically organized into small teams of 3 to 5 individuals, each team assigned to support larger baseline human units during combat operations. These teams operated with considerable tactical independence, allowing them to utilize their stealth capabilities and marksmanship skills without requiring constant supervision from baseline human commanders. The team structure provided mutual support while maintaining the flexibility necessary for effective sniper operations. Communication protocols between rattling units and baseline human command elements required specialized training for both abhuman troops and their human counterparts. Rattling teams used modified Vox equipment designed for their physical requirements, while human officers received instruction in the capabilities and limitations of their rattling support elements. Standard operating procedures established clear protocols for target assignment, movement coordination, and casualty evacuation that took into account the unique characteristics of mixed-species military operations. The logistical requirements for supporting rattling units in the field necessitated modifications to standard Imperial Guard supply systems. The enhanced metabolic requirements of Ratlings demanded specialized ration packs with higher caloric content and more frequent meal schedules than those used for baseline human troops. Medical supplies required adaptation for rattling physiology, with scaled equipment and medications adjusted for their smaller body mass and unique metabolic characteristics. Transportation arrangements needed modification to accommodate the different physical requirements of rattling personnel, from vehicle seating to equipment storage considerations. Equipment standardization for rattling units involved the development of specialized gear that maintained compatibility with broader Imperial Guard logistics while meeting the specific needs of abhuman troops. Weapons modifications included adjusted trigger mechanisms, shortened stocks, and modified sighting systems that accommodated rattling physical characteristics while maintaining the reliability and effectiveness expected of Imperial military equipment. Personal protective equipment required complete redesign, with armor systems scaled for rattling physiology while providing equivalent protection levels to standard Imperial Guard kit. The establishment of rattling specialist roles within Imperial Guard organizational structures recognized their unique capabilities while ensuring effective integration with baseline human forces. Rattling units typically served as attached specialist elements rather than forming independent regiments, providing sniper support, reconnaissance capabilities, and specialized infiltration services to larger formations. This organizational approach maximized the tactical value of rattling abilities while maintaining the command and control structures necessary for effective military operations. Training cadre development for rattling units required the identification and preparation of experienced personnel capable of instructing abhuman troops in military procedures and tactics. Many training positions were filled by retired Imperial Guard veterans who had served alongside rattling units and understood their capabilities and limitations. These instructors received specialized training in abhuman physiology and psychology, ensuring they could effectively communicate military concepts while respecting rattling cultural practices and social structures. The psychological preparation of rattling recruits for military service addressed the cultural transition from peaceful agricultural communities to military life. Training programs incorporated elements that helped rattlings adapt to military discipline while maintaining the cooperative social behaviors that characterized their culture. Psychological assessment protocols identified individuals who might struggle with the transition to military life, providing additional support and counseling to ensure successful integration into Imperial Guard service. Career development pathways for rattling military personnel recognize their specialized capabilities while providing opportunities for advancement within Imperial Guard structures. Experienced rattling marksmen could advance to leadership positions within their specialist units, while exceptional individuals might receive selection for advanced training programs or assignment to elite reconnaissance formations. The volunteer nature of rattling recruitment meant that many individuals viewed military service as long-term career choices rather than temporary obligations, creating incentives for professional development and skill advancement. The integration of rattling cultural practices into military service helped maintain morale and unit cohesion among abhuman troops serving far from their homeworlds. Military regulations were modified to accommodate rattling dietary requirements and meal scheduling, while recreational activities incorporated elements of rattling social traditions. The preparation and sharing of meals remained important social bonding mechanisms within rattling military units, with field kitchens adapted to support the culinary practices that formed such an integral part of their culture. The battlefield deployment of rattling forces represents a specialized application of their unique physiological and cultural adaptations, transforming natural hunting skills into precision military capabilities that have proven invaluable across countless Imperial campaigns. The primary role of Ratlings within Astra Militarum operations centers on their exceptional marksmanship abilities, which consistently exceed the performance parameters of baseline human snipers by significant margins. Their diminutive stature and natural stealth capabilities make them ideally suited for infiltration missions that would prove impossible for larger troops, while their enhanced visual acuity allows them to engage targets at ranges that push the limits of standard Imperial weaponry. The sniper role occupied by Ratlings extends far beyond simple long-range shooting, encompassing a comprehensive approach to battlefield intelligence gathering and target elimination that leverages their complete skill set. Rattling marksmen excel at identifying and eliminating high-value targets such as enemy officers, communications specialists, and heavy weapons crews, whose removal can disrupt entire enemy formations. Their ability to remain concealed for extended periods while maintaining perfect shooting accuracy allows them to operate independently behind enemy lines, creating confusion and fear among opposing forces who find their leadership systematically eliminated by invisible adversaries. The psychological impact of rattling sniper operations often exceeds their direct tactical contributions, as enemy forces struggle to locate and counter marksmen who seem to appear and disappear at will. The compact size of rattling snipers allows them to utilize concealment positions that would be impossible for baseline human marksmen, from hollow trees and abandoned animal burrows to debris piles and structural spaces within urban environments. Their natural understanding of camouflage principles, combined with their enhanced proprioceptive awareness, enables them to remain motionless for hours while maintaining perfect readiness to engage targets of opportunity. The scout role performed by rattling units capitalizes on their stealth capabilities and enhanced sensory perception to provide reconnaissance information that proves crucial for tactical planning and operational success. Rattling scouts can penetrate enemy positions undetected, gathering intelligence on troop dispositions, defensive preparations, and supply line vulnerabilities that inform broader strategic decisions. Their small size allows them to move through terrain features that would block or delay larger reconnaissance elements, while their enhanced vision enables them to observe and report enemy activities from distances that exceed the detection capabilities of most surveillance equipment. Forward reconnaissance missions conducted by rattling teams typically involve deep penetration behind enemy lines to establish observation posts that can monitor enemy movements and communications for extended periods. These positions are often established in locations that enemy forces consider inaccessible or unsuitable for military observation, taking advantage of rattling ability to survive and operate in confined spaces that would prove unbearable for baseline human troops. The intelligence gathered by these forward positions often provides advance warning of enemy attacks, allowing Imperial commanders to position their forces advantageously or prepare defensive measures that can blunt enemy offensive operations. The infiltration capabilities of Ratlings extend beyond passive reconnaissance to include active disruption of enemy operations through sabotage and targeted elimination of key personnel. Small rattling teams can penetrate enemy installations to disable communications equipment, contaminate supply caches, or eliminate critical technical personnel whose expertise is essential for enemy operations. Their ability to move undetected through enemy positions allows them to strike at vulnerable points in enemy logistics networks, creating cascading failures that can cripple much larger enemy formations. The specialized equipment developed for rattling forces reflects careful adaptation of standard Imperial weaponry and gear to accommodate their unique physical characteristics while maximizing their natural capabilities. The standard issue Long-Law's sniper rifle receives extensive modifications when assigned to rattling marksmen, with shortened stocks that accommodate their compact stature and adjusted trigger mechanisms that match their hand size and finger length. The barrel length remains unchanged to maintain ballistic performance, but the overall weapon balance is modified to provide optimal handling characteristics for rattling physiology. Optical sighting systems for rattling weapons require careful calibration to match their enhanced visual acuity and unique eye positioning relative to weapon stocks. Standard Imperial scopes often provide excessive magnification for rattling use, as their natural vision can distinguish targets at ranges where baseline humans would require optical assistance. Modified scope systems provide variable magnification that allows rattlings to adapt to different engagement ranges while maintaining their natural accuracy advantages. The scope mounting systems are adjusted to accommodate the different head position and neck angle that results from rattling proportions relative to their weapons. The development of scaled-down lasgun variants for rattling use addresses situations where the full-size long laws proves impractical due to space constraints or mission requirements. These compact weapons maintain the reliability and effectiveness of standard Imperial lasguns, while featuring reduced overall dimensions that better match rattling physical capabilities. The power packs for these weapons are modified to provide equivalent shot capacity despite their reduced size, utilizing advanced energy storage techniques that maintain battlefield endurance while reducing weight and bulk. Camouflaging cloaks designed for rattling use represent sophisticated adaptations of standard Imperial camouflage technology that take advantage of their compact size while providing enhanced concealment capabilities. The reduced surface area required to cover a rattling allows for more advanced camouflaging weaves that provide superior adaptive camouflage compared to the larger cloaks used by baseline human troops. The cloak design accommodates rattling proportions while allowing full range of motion for shooting positions and equipment access, with integrated hood systems that can conceal their distinctive facial features when necessary. Personal equipment modifications for rattling forces extend to all aspects of their field gear, from communication devices to survival equipment. Vox units are redesigned with smaller handsets and modified control interfaces that accommodate rattling hand size, while maintaining full compatibility with standard Imperial communication protocols. Survival gear is scaled appropriately while accounting for enhanced rattling metabolic requirements, with ration packs that provide sufficient caloric content and meal frequency to maintain their operational effectiveness during extended missions. The tactical doctrines governing rattling deployment emphasize their strengths while minimizing exposure to situations where their physical limitations might prove problematic. Rattling units are typically assigned to positions that maximize their engagement range while providing multiple concealment options and escape routes. The doctrine recognizes that while rattlings excel at long-range precision shooting, they are vulnerable in close-quarters combat situations, where their small stature and limited physical strength place them at significant disadvantage against larger opponents. Forward reconnaissance doctrines for rattling deployment focus on establishing observation networks that can monitor enemy activities across wide areas while maintaining communication with command elements. Rattling teams are positioned to provide overlapping observation coverage that eliminates blind spots in enemy territory, with communication schedules that ensure regular intelligence updates without compromising operational security. The positioning of these teams takes advantage of natural terrain features and enemy blind spots to establish long-term observation capabilities that can function throughout extended campaign periods. Target elimination protocols for rattling snipers prioritize high-value targets whose removal will have maximum impact on enemy operational capabilities. Primary targets include enemy commanders, communication specialists, heavy weapons crews, and technical personnel whose specialized knowledge is difficult to replace. The targeting doctrine emphasizes patience and precision over rapid engagement, allowing rattling marksmen to wait for optimal shooting opportunities that maximize the probability of successful elimination while minimizing the risk of detection and counterattack. The disruption of enemy communications represents a specialized application of rattling capabilities that can have strategic impact far beyond the immediate tactical situation. Rattling teams are trained to identify and eliminate enemy communication personnel, disable communication equipment through precision shooting, and disrupt signal transmission through targeted destruction of antenna systems and relay equipment. These operations can isolate enemy units from their command structure, creating confusion and coordination failures that Imperial forces can exploit through coordinated attacks. Integration with baseline human Imperial Guard units requires careful coordination to ensure that rattling capabilities are utilized effectively while maintaining overall unit cohesion and command structure. Rattling teams are typically attached to larger formations rather than operating as independent units, providing specialized support that complements the capabilities of baseline human troops. The integration process involves extensive cross-training between rattling specialists and their baseline human counterparts to ensure effective communication and coordination during combat operations. Combined arms operations involving rattling forces demonstrate their value as force multipliers that enhance the effectiveness of larger Imperial formations. Rattling snipers provide overwatch protection for advancing infantry units, eliminating enemy threats before they can engage Imperial forces effectively. Their reconnaissance capabilities allow Imperial commanders to position their forces advantageously, avoiding enemy strong points while identifying vulnerable areas that can be exploited through coordinated attacks. The intelligence provided by rattling forward observers enhances the accuracy and effectiveness of artillery strikes and air support missions. The deployment of rattling forces across various theaters of war has demonstrated their adaptability to diverse combat environments and operational requirements. In urban warfare situations, their small size allows them to utilize concealment positions within damaged buildings and infrastructure that would be impossible for larger troops to occupy. Their ability to move through rubble and debris without creating noise or disturbance enables them to establish shooting positions deep within enemy-controlled territory, creating persistent threats that enemy forces struggle to locate and eliminate. Desert warfare presents unique opportunities for rattling deployment, as their enhanced vision and natural camouflage abilities prove particularly effective in the stark, open terrain that characterizes many arid combat zones. Rattling teams can establish concealed positions in terrain features that appear barren and unsuitable for military occupation, creating observation posts that can monitor enemy movements across vast distances. Their ability to survive on reduced water rations, combined with their enhanced heat tolerance, allows them to operate in desert conditions that would quickly exhaust baseline human troops. Forest and jungle environments provide ideal deployment conditions for rattling forces, as the dense vegetation and complex terrain features offer numerous concealment opportunities that match their natural stealth capabilities. Their compact size allows them to move through undergrowth and tree canopies without creating the disturbances that would reveal the presence of larger troops, while their enhanced hearing and vision help them detect enemy movements in the visually restricted environment. The hunting skills that form part of their cultural background translate directly to tracking and stalking enemy forces through wilderness terrain. Mountain warfare operations utilize rattling capabilities for high-altitude reconnaissance and precision shooting across the extended ranges that characterize alpine combat environments. Their enhanced lung capacity and cardiovascular efficiency provide advantages in the reduced oxygen conditions found at high altitudes, while their natural balance and agility facilitate movement across difficult terrain that might challenge baseline human troops. The clear sight lines available in mountainous terrain allow rattling marksmen to engage targets at maximum weapon range, taking full advantage of their exceptional accuracy capabilities. The logistical support requirements for deployed rattling forces reflect their unique physiological needs and specialized equipment requirements. Supply chains must accommodate their enhanced metabolic demands through specialized ration packs that provide adequate caloric content and meal frequency, while medical support requires equipment and medications scaled for their physiology. Ammunition resupply operations must account for the specialized rounds used in modified rattling weapons, while equipment maintenance requires technical personnel trained in the unique modifications applied to their gear. The urban warfare expertise developed by rattling units found its most challenging test during the siege of Vervenhive, where the vertical nature of Hive city combat required adaptation of traditional reconnaissance and sniper techniques to three-dimensional battlefield conditions. Rattling teams learned to establish observation networks that spanned multiple Hive levels simultaneously, creating intelligence-gathering capabilities that could monitor enemy activities throughout the massive urban structure. This vertical reconnaissance approach provided Imperial commanders with unprecedented situational awareness during complex urban combat operations. The confined spaces within Hive cities presented unique opportunities for rattling deployment, as their compact size allowed them to utilize concealment positions that were impossible for baseline human troops to occupy. Rattling snipers established firing positions within ventilation shafts, maintenance tunnels, and structural spaces between HAB blocks that provided clear fields of fire while remaining completely hidden from enemy observation. These positions often remained undetected throughout extended firefights, allowing rattling marksmen to provide continuous support for Imperial assault operations. The psychological impact of rattling sniper operations proved particularly effective in Hive city environments, where the dense population and complex acoustic properties created conditions that amplified the fear and confusion generated by invisible marksmen. Enemy forces struggling to locate and counter rattling snipers often became reluctant to expose themselves in areas where Imperial marksmen might be operating, reducing their operational effectiveness and creating opportunities for Imperial assault troops to advance with reduced opposition. The adaptation of rattling tactics to void warfare operations required significant modifications to their traditional approaches, as the confined spaces and artificial environments of spacecraft presented challenges that differed dramatically from planetary surface operations. The absence of natural concealment features forced rattling teams to develop new camouflage techniques using shipboard materials and equipment, while the recycled atmosphere and artificial gravity systems created environmental conditions that affected their enhanced sensory capabilities. Boarding action operations utilizing rattling specialists demonstrated their value in spacecraft assault missions, where their compact size allowed them to navigate through maintenance shafts and service conduits that connected different sections of enemy vessels. These infiltration routes provided access to critical ship systems and command areas that conventional assault troops could not reach without fighting through heavily defended corridors and compartments. Rattling teams could disable life support systems, sabotage weapon controls, and eliminate key personnel from positions that enemy defenders considered secure. The precision shooting requirements of void warfare presented unique challenges for rattling marksmen, as the confined spaces of spacecraft limited engagement ranges, while the artificial environments affected ballistic calculations. Rattling snipers adapted their techniques to account for recycled atmosphere density variations and artificial gravity fluctuations that could affect projectile trajectory over the shorter ranges typical of shipboard combat. Their enhanced proprioceptive awareness proved valuable in adapting to the different gravitational conditions found aboard various classes of Imperial and enemy vessels. The jungle warfare capabilities of rattling units found extensive application during the Armageddon campaigns, where the industrial world's remaining forest areas provided concealment opportunities that conventional Imperial troops could not effectively utilize. The dense vegetation and complex terrain features of these areas offered ideal conditions for rattling stealth operations, allowing them to establish observation posts deep within enemy-controlled territory that could monitor orc movements and coordinate Imperial counterattacks. The hunting skills that formed part of rattling cultural background translated directly to tracking and engaging orc forces through jungle terrain, where their enhanced hearing and vision allowed them to detect enemy movements that would escape the notice of baseline human troops. Rattling teams could follow orc supply columns through dense vegetation without detection, identifying vulnerable points where Imperial forces could conduct ambush operations with maximum effectiveness. Their ability to survive on minimal supplies while maintaining operational capability proved crucial during extended jungle operations, where conventional resupply was impossible. The adaptation of rattling equipment to jungle conditions required modifications that maintained their marksmanship capabilities while providing protection against the environmental hazards characteristic of dense forest operations. Camouflaging cloaks received treatments that enhanced their effectiveness against the varied lighting conditions found beneath forest canopies, while weapon maintenance procedures were modified to account for the high humidity and corrosive vegetation that could damage sensitive equipment. Communication equipment required waterproofing and enhanced signal amplification to maintain contact through the dense vegetation that interfered with standard Vox transmissions. The desert warfare operations conducted by rattling units during the Talorn campaign demonstrated their adaptability to extreme environmental conditions that challenged even their enhanced physiological capabilities. The open terrain and extended sight lines of desert environments provided ideal conditions for long-range marksmanship, allowing rattling snipers to engage targets at maximum weapon range while utilizing minimal concealment features for protection. Their enhanced vision proved particularly valuable in desert conditions, where heat shimmer and dust clouds could obscure targets that remained clearly visible to rattling marksmen. The water conservation requirements of desert operations tested rattling physiological adaptations, as their enhanced metabolism typically required more frequent fluid intake than baseline human troops. Modified hydration protocols were developed that balanced their metabolic needs against the limited water supplies available during extended desert operations, utilizing techniques that maximized water retention while maintaining operational effectiveness. These protocols proved successful in maintaining rattling combat capability throughout campaigns that lasted several months in extreme desert conditions. The establishment of concealed observation posts in desert terrain required innovative approaches that took advantage of minimal natural features while creating effective camouflage against the stark landscape. Rattling teams learned to utilize rock formations, dried vegetation, and terrain shadows to create concealment positions that remained undetected despite the limited cover available in desert environments. These positions often required construction of artificial concealment using local materials, creating hides that blended seamlessly with the surrounding terrain while providing clear fields of observation and fire. The social fabric of rattling communities operates through intricate hierarchical systems that interweave family lineages, culinary expertise, and marksmanship prowess into a complex network of status and responsibility. Unlike the rigid caste systems found on many Imperial worlds, rattling society maintains fluid social mobility while respecting traditional authority structures that have evolved over millennia of agricultural abundance. The foundation of this hierarchy rests upon genealogical records that trace family lines back through dozens of generations, creating detailed maps of kinship relationships that determine everything from property inheritance to marriage arrangements to positions of community leadership. Family lineages within Rattling society carry weight that extends far beyond simple blood relationships, encompassing accumulated wisdom, agricultural knowledge, and specialized skills that pass from generation to generation through carefully maintained oral traditions and practical training. The most prestigious lineages trace their ancestry to the original colonist families who first settled their worlds during humanity's expansion across the galaxy, with these founding families maintaining detailed records of their contributions to community development and agricultural innovation. These genealogical chronicles document not only family relationships, but also significant achievements in farming techniques, culinary innovations, and military service that enhance the reputation and social standing of entire family lines. The eldest members of prominent lineages serve as repository keepers for family knowledge, maintaining extensive mental catalogs of agricultural techniques, seasonal patterns, soil management practices, and crop varieties that represent centuries of accumulated experience. These family elders hold positions of considerable influence within their communities, consulted on matters ranging from planting schedules to marriage negotiations to the selection of young people for military service. Their authority stems not from formal political appointment, but from demonstrated expertise and the respect accorded to those who have successfully preserved and transmitted valuable knowledge across generations. Culinary expertise occupies a position of extraordinary importance within Rattling's social hierarchy, with master cooks achieving status levels that rival those of successful military leaders or prosperous farmers. The preparation of food transcends mere sustenance within Rattling culture, representing an art form that combines technical skill, creative innovation, and deep understanding of flavor combinations that can elevate simple ingredients into memorable culinary experiences. Master cooks spend decades perfecting their techniques, learning to balance the enhanced taste sensitivity of Rattling palates with the nutritional requirements imposed by their accelerated metabolism. The training of culinary apprentices follows formal structures that resemble guild systems found on many Imperial worlds, with experienced cooks selecting promising young people who demonstrate natural talent and dedication to the demanding discipline required for culinary mastery. These apprenticeships typically last 7 to 10 years, during which students learn not only cooking techniques, but also food preservation methods, ingredient selection, menu planning, and the social protocols that govern feast preparation and service. The relationship between master and apprentice creates bonds that often last throughout their lifetimes, with successful students maintaining loyalty to their teachers while eventually establishing their own culinary reputations. Cooking competitions represent major social events within Rattling communities, drawing participants and spectators from across entire planetary regions to witness contests that test every aspect of culinary skill and creativity. These competitions follow elaborate rules that govern ingredient selection, preparation time limits, presentation standards, and judging criteria that evaluate not only taste and appearance, but also innovation and technical execution. Winners of major cooking competitions gain recognition that extends far beyond their local communities, with their reputations spreading across multiple worlds and their techniques becoming subjects of study for aspiring cooks throughout Rattling society. The judges for these culinary competitions are selected from among the most respected food experts within Rattling society, individuals whose palates have been refined through decades of tasting, and whose knowledge of cooking techniques allows them to evaluate the subtle differences that separate competent cooking from true mastery. These judging panels include not only master cooks, but also agricultural specialists who understand ingredient quality, food preservationists who can assess storage and preparation techniques, and community elders whose experience encompasses the full range of Rattling culinary traditions. Marksmanship prowess forms the third pillar of Ratling's social hierarchy, with exceptional shooters achieving recognition that acknowledges both their natural talents and the disciplined practice required to develop their abilities to their full potential. Unlike culinary expertise or family lineage, marksmanship ability can be demonstrated objectively through shooting competitions that test accuracy, consistency, and performance under various conditions that simulate the challenges faced during hunting expeditions or military service. These competitions create opportunities for social advancement based purely on individual skill, allowing talented marksmen from modest backgrounds to achieve recognition and status within their communities. Shooting competitions within Rattling society follow traditional formats that have evolved over centuries to test the full range of marksmanship skills valued by their culture. Long-range precision events challenge competitors to hit small targets at maximum distances under various weather conditions, while rapid-fire competitions test the ability to engage multiple targets quickly and accurately. Moving target events simulate hunting conditions, requiring shooters to track and engage targets that follow unpredictable movement patterns through varied terrain features that provide realistic concealment and obstacles. The weapons used in these competitions typically consist of traditional hunting rifles that have been maintained and modified by generations of owners, creating firearms that represent both family heritage and individual craftsmanship. These weapons often feature custom modifications that reflect the preferences and physical characteristics of their owners, with trigger mechanisms adjusted for individual finger length, stock dimensions modified to match personal proportions, and sighting systems customized to accommodate individual vision characteristics. The maintenance and improvement of these weapons becomes a specialized craft in itself, with skilled gunsmiths achieving recognition for their ability to enhance weapon performance while preserving the traditional appearance and handling characteristics that define Rattling firearms. Marriage customs within Rattling society reflect their complex social hierarchy while emphasizing practical considerations that ensure the continued prosperity and stability of agricultural communities. Marriage negotiations typically involve extensive discussions between families that consider not only the compatibility of the prospective partners, but also the agricultural knowledge, culinary skills, and marksmanship abilities that each individual brings to the union. These negotiations examine how the combination of family lineages will benefit both extended families, what agricultural lands or specialized knowledge will be joined through the marriage, and how the union will contribute to community stability and prosperity. The courtship process preceding marriage involves formal demonstrations of skill and competence that allow prospective partners to evaluate each other's abilities and character. Young men seeking marriage typically demonstrate their marksmanship skills through hunting expeditions that provide food for community feasts, while also showing their agricultural knowledge through successful management of family farm plots. Young women display their culinary expertise through the preparation of elaborate meals that showcase their cooking skills and creativity, while also demonstrating their understanding of food preservation techniques and household management. Wedding celebrations represent major community events that can last for several days and involve the participation of extended families and neighbors from across wide geographic areas. These celebrations feature elaborate feast preparations that showcase the culinary skills of both families, with multiple courses that demonstrate the full range of Rattling cooking techniques and regional specialties. The preparation of wedding feasts requires coordination between numerous cooks who must collaborate to create meals that serve hundreds of guests while maintaining the quality standards expected for such important occasions. Clan structures within Rattling society organize extended family groups that can encompass hundreds of individuals connected through complex kinship networks spanning multiple generations. These clans typically control specific geographic areas that include agricultural lands, hunting territories, and community facilities that provide the economic foundation for their members' prosperity. Clan leadership operates through councils of elders who represent different family lines within the clan structure. with decisions made through consensus building processes that ensure all major family groups have input into matters affecting clan interests. The territorial boundaries between clans are maintained through traditional agreements that have been refined over centuries to prevent conflicts while ensuring equitable access to agricultural resources and hunting grounds. These boundaries typically follow natural features such as rivers, ridge lines, or forest edges that provide clear demarcation while taking into account the agricultural potential and carrying capacity of different areas. Disputes over territorial boundaries are resolved through formal arbitration processes that involve neutral parties from other clans, who can evaluate competing claims based on historical precedent and practical considerations. Inter-clan relationships create networks of cooperation and mutual support that extend across entire continents and sometimes between different worlds within Rattling space. Marriage alliances between clans establish formal relationships that facilitate trade, resource sharing, and mutual assistance during times of crisis or opportunity. These alliances often include agreements for sharing agricultural knowledge, coordinating planting and harvest schedules to maximize regional productivity, and providing mutual support during military recruitment periods when young people leave their communities for Imperial Guard service. Genealogy maintenance within Rattling society requires specialized knowledge and dedicated record keeping that preserves family histories across multiple generations, while tracking the complex relationships that develop through intermarriage between different clans and family lines. Professional genealogists maintain detailed records that document not only direct family relationships, but also marriage connections, adoption arrangements, and the inheritance of specialized skills or knowledge that passes through family lines. These records serve crucial functions in property inheritance, marriage negotiations, and the selection of individuals for positions of community leadership. The importance of genealogical records extends beyond simple family history to encompass the preservation of agricultural knowledge and cultural traditions that define Rattling society. Family records document the development of specialized farming techniques, the creation of unique food recipes, and the achievement of exceptional marksmanship performances that contribute to family reputation and social standing. These records also track the military service of family members, creating detailed accounts of their contributions to imperial campaigns and their achievements in combat that enhance family honor and provide examples for younger generations. Property rights within Rattling society operate through inheritance systems that balance individual ownership with community needs and clan territorial requirements. Agricultural lands typically pass through family lines according to complex rules that consider the farming expertise of potential heirs, their commitment to remaining within the community, and their ability to maintain the productivity levels that support extended family members. These inheritance systems often divide large family holdings among multiple heirs while maintaining cooperative management arrangements that preserve the agricultural efficiency of consolidated farming operations. The inheritance of specialized knowledge and skills follows patterns that ensure the preservation of valuable capabilities while allowing for innovation and adaptation to changing conditions. Culinary knowledge typically passes from parent to child through intensive training programs that begin in early childhood and continue through adolescence, with formal recognition of mastery occurring through community ceremonies that acknowledge the successful transmission of family culinary traditions. Marksmanship skills are similarly transmitted through family training programs, though these abilities are also developed through community competitions and formal instruction from military veterans who have returned from Imperial Guard service. Traditional crafts within Rattling society encompass a wide range of specialized skills that support their agricultural lifestyle while maintaining the quality standards that have made their products valuable throughout Imperial space. Weapon maintenance represents one of the most highly regarded crafts, with skilled gunsmiths capable of maintaining and improving the hunting rifles that serve both practical and ceremonial functions within Rattling culture. These craftsmen understand the intricate mechanisms of traditional Rattling firearms while also possessing the knowledge necessary to maintain and repair the modified Imperial weapons used by military veterans who have returned from Guard service. The techniques used in weapon maintenance combine traditional metalworking skills with specialized knowledge of ballistics and mechanical engineering that ensures optimal weapon performance under various conditions. Master gunsmiths can diagnose and correct accuracy problems, modify trigger mechanisms to match individual preferences, and create custom ammunition that maximizes the performance of specific weapons. Their workshops typically contain hand tools that have been passed down through generations of craftsmen, along with specialized equipment for measuring and adjusting the precise tolerances that separate adequate weapons from exceptional ones. Agricultural crafts encompass the specialized knowledge required to maintain the exceptional productivity that characterizes rattling farming operations. Soil management techniques include the preparation of specialized fertilizers using traditional composting methods that have been refined over centuries to maximize nutrient content while maintaining soil structure and microbial diversity. Seed selection and preservation methods ensure the continued availability of crop varieties that have been adapted to local growing conditions while maintaining the genetic diversity necessary for continued agricultural innovation. The development of new agricultural techniques occurs through careful experimentation that builds upon traditional knowledge while incorporating innovations that can improve productivity or adapt to changing environmental conditions. Agricultural specialists maintain detailed records of planting schedules, soil treatments, and harvest results that allow them to identify successful innovations and share them with other farming communities. These specialists often achieve recognition that rivals that accorded to master cooks or exceptional marksmen, with their innovations contributing to community prosperity and regional food security. Brewing techniques represent another traditional craft that has achieved exceptional sophistication within rattling society, producing alcoholic beverages that are prized throughout imperial space for their quality and distinctive flavors. Rattling brewers utilize traditional fermentation methods that have been refined through centuries of experimentation, creating ales, wines, and distilled spirits that showcase the agricultural abundance of their worlds. The brewing process requires understanding of fermentation chemistry, ingredient selection, and aging techniques that can take years to complete while demanding constant attention to maintain quality standards. The ingredients used in rattling brewing operations include both cultivated crops specifically grown for beverage production and wild plants that are harvested from natural areas according to traditional seasonal schedules. Grain varieties used for brewing are often different from those grown for food production, with specialized characteristics that contribute to specific flavor profiles and fermentation behaviors. Hop cultivation requires particular expertise, as these plants demand precise growing conditions and careful timing for harvest to achieve the bitter and aromatic qualities that balance the sweetness of fermented grains. The aging and storage of alcoholic beverages requires specialized facilities that maintain consistent temperature and humidity conditions while protecting the developing beverages from contamination or spoilage. Traditional rattling brewing facilities often include underground cellars that take advantage of natural temperature stability while providing the controlled environment necessary for proper aging. These facilities represent significant community investments that serve multiple families or entire clans, with usage schedules and maintenance responsibilities shared among the brewing families who utilize them. The social significance of shared meals within rattling culture extends far beyond simple nutrition to encompass complex social bonding mechanisms that strengthen community relationships and transmit cultural values across generations. Daily meal schedules accommodate the enhanced metabolic requirements of rattling physiology while providing opportunities for family interaction and community socialization that maintain social cohesion. The preparation and consumption of meals follow traditional protocols that emphasize cooperation, respect for culinary expertise, and appreciation for the agricultural abundance that makes their lifestyle possible. Feast traditions associated with seasonal celebrations, community milestones, and family occasions require extensive preparation that involves entire communities in collaborative cooking efforts that demonstrate the full range of Ratling culinary capabilities. These events feature multiple courses that showcase different cooking techniques, ingredient combinations, and regional specialties that reflect the diversity of Ratling agricultural production. The organization of major feasts requires coordination between numerous families who contribute different dishes, while ensuring that the overall meal maintains balance and variety that satisfies the sophisticated palates of Ratling diners. The position of Ratlings within imperial society represents a delicate equilibrium between acceptance and suspicion that reflects the fundamental tensions inherent in the Imperium's treatment of abhuman populations. While their military utility and agricultural contributions have secured their recognition as loyal imperial citizens, Ratlings must constantly navigate the xenophobic undercurrents that permeate imperial culture and occasionally manifest in discriminatory policies or outright persecution. This precarious balance requires continuous demonstration of their loyalty and usefulness to the Emperor's cause, while their diminutive stature and distinctive appearance mark them as visibly different from baseline humanity in ways that can provoke suspicion or hostility from imperial citizens who view genetic purity as paramount. The theological position of the imperial cult regarding abhuman populations creates particular challenges for Ratling integration into broader imperial society, as the ecclesiarchy's interpretation of the emperor's divine will vary significantly between different sectors and individual clerics. Some imperial theologians embrace an inclusive doctrine that recognizes abhumans as part of the emperor's grand design for humanity's expansion across the galaxy, viewing their specialized adaptations as divine gifts that enhance human capability in specific environments. These progressive interpretations emphasize the stable genetic inheritance of abhuman traits and their continued fertility with baseline humans as evidence of their fundamental humanity, arguing that their variations represent beneficial evolution rather than dangerous mutation. Conversely, more conservative elements within the ecclesiarchy maintain suspicion toward all genetic variants, viewing any deviation from baseline human norms as potential corruption that threatens the purity of the human species. These hardline factions often advocate for segregation policies that limit abhuman participation in religious ceremonies, restrict their access to sacred sites, and question their spiritual capacity for true faith in the emperor. The theological debates surrounding abhuman status have raged for millennia without definitive resolution, creating regional variations in religious acceptance that can dramatically affect Ratling communities depending on local ecclesiastical leadership. The practical implementation of religious policy toward Ratlings demonstrates the complex interplay between theological doctrine and administrative necessity that characterizes much of imperial governance. In sectors where Ratling agricultural production or military contributions are considered essential, local ecclesiarchy representatives typically adopt more accommodating interpretations of imperial doctrine that allow for full participation in religious observances. These pragmatic approaches recognize that alienating valuable abhuman populations through excessive religious restrictions would undermine imperial strategic interests while potentially driving loyal citizens toward heretical alternatives. Regional variations in religious acceptance create a patchwork of different policies and practices that Ratling communities must navigate when traveling between different imperial territories or when dealing with visiting imperial officials. Some worlds welcome Ratling pilgrims to major shrines and allow their participation in planetary religious festivals, while others maintain strict segregation that relegates abhumans to separate worship facilities or excludes them entirely from certain religious observances. These inconsistencies create uncertainty for Ratling communities and require careful diplomacy from their leadership to maintain positive relationships with local religious authorities. The relationship between Ratling communities and local Imperial Guard recruitment offices demonstrates another aspect of their complex integration into imperial society, as military necessity often overrides social prejudices when exceptional capabilities are required for specific missions. Recruitment officers familiar with rattling military performance typically maintain positive relationships with abhuman communities, recognizing the value of their specialized skills and the reliability of their service records. These professional relationships often extend beyond simple military recruitment to encompass broader administrative cooperation that facilitates rattling integration into imperial society. However, recruitment practices can vary significantly between different Imperial Guard regiments and their commanding officers, with some baseline human units expressing reluctance to accept abhuman auxiliaries despite official policies that mandate their integration. These attitudes reflect deeper cultural prejudices that view genetic purity as synonymous with military reliability, creating friction that requires careful management by regimental command staff who understand the tactical value of rattling capabilities. The success or failure of these integration efforts often depends on the personal experiences and prejudices of individual officers rather than systematic imperial policy. The economic contributions of rattling worlds to the broader imperial economy extend far beyond their direct agricultural output to encompass specialized services and expertise that benefit multiple sectors of imperial society. Their exceptional food production capabilities help stabilize regional food supplies during times of crisis, while their expertise in agricultural techniques provides valuable consultation services for imperial worlds seeking to improve their own farming productivity. These economic relationships create networks of mutual dependence that strengthen rattling integration into imperial society while providing practical benefits that help overcome cultural prejudices. The specialized military services provided by rattling units generate economic value that extends beyond their direct combat contributions to encompass training services, equipment development, and tactical innovation that benefits broader imperial military capabilities. Rattling marksmanship instructors serve at Imperial Guard training facilities throughout the galaxy, sharing their expertise with baseline human recruits while developing improved training techniques that enhance overall military effectiveness. Their insights into camouflage, stealth operations, and precision shooting contribute to tactical doctrines that are applied across multiple military branches. Trade relationships between rattling agricultural communities and imperial commercial networks demonstrate the practical integration that occurs when economic necessity overrides cultural prejudices. Rattling food products command premium prices in imperial markets due to their exceptional quality and distinctive flavors, creating commercial relationships that benefit both abhuman producers and baseline human consumers. These trade networks often develop into long-term partnerships that transcend simple commercial transactions to encompass cultural exchange and mutual understanding between different human populations. The development of specialized equipment and services tailored to rattling requirements has created niche markets within the broader imperial economy that provide opportunities for baseline human entrepreneurs while meeting the unique needs of abhuman populations. Equipment manufacturers produce scaled-down versions of standard imperial gear specifically designed for rattling physiology, while service providers develop transportation, accommodation, and communication services that account for their distinctive requirements. These commercial relationships demonstrate the practical integration that occurs when economic incentives align with social accommodation. The relationship between rattling communities and other abhuman strains reveals the complex hierarchies and interactions that exist within the broader category of genetically modified human populations throughout the Imperium. Ratlings generally maintain cordial relationships with other stable abhuman strains, recognizing their shared status as genetic variants who must navigate similar challenges in gaining acceptance within imperial society. These relationships often involve mutual support in dealing with discriminatory policies, sharing information about regional variations in abhuman treatment, and coordinating political efforts to maintain their recognized status within imperial law. The Ogren populations found on high-gravity worlds represent perhaps the most frequent contact between different abhuman strains, as both Ratlings and Ogrens serve within Imperial Guard formations and often encounter each other during military operations. Despite their dramatically different physical characteristics and cultural backgrounds, these two abhuman strains have developed working relationships based on mutual respect for each other's specialized capabilities. Rattling marksmen often provide precision fire support for Ogren assault units, while Ogren strength and resilience complement Rattling stealth and accuracy in combined operations. Interactions with squats, the abhuman strain adapted to high-gravity mining worlds, occur less frequently due to the relative isolation of their stronghold communities, but when contact does occur, it typically involves trade relationships that benefit both populations. Rattling agricultural products provide dietary variety for squat communities whose harsh environments limit local food production, while squat mining expertise and manufactured goods offer valuable resources for Rattling communities seeking to improve their agricultural infrastructure or defensive capabilities. The collective political status of abhuman populations within imperial society requires coordinated efforts to maintain their legal recognition and resist discriminatory policies that threaten their continued integration. Rattling political leadership often cooperates with representatives from other abhuman strains to present unified positions on issues affecting genetic variant populations, recognizing that attacks on one abhuman strain can establish precedents that threaten all non-baseline human communities. These political alliances operate through informal networks that share information about policy changes, coordinate responses to discriminatory legislation, and provide mutual support during times of increased persecution. The legal frameworks governing abhuman rights within imperial law reflect centuries of political negotiation and administrative precedent that have established protections for genetically stable human variants while maintaining restrictions that reflect broader imperial concerns about genetic purity. These legal protections include recognition of abhuman citizenship rights, guarantees of military service opportunities, and provisions for cultural autonomy that allow abhuman communities to maintain their distinctive traditions within the broader imperial framework. However, these protections remain subject to interpretation by local imperial authorities and can be suspended during times of crisis when genetic purity concerns override practical considerations. The administrative challenges of governing diverse abhuman populations require imperial bureaucrats to develop specialized expertise in managing genetic variant communities while maintaining the standardized procedures that characterize imperial governance. The administratum maintains dedicated departments that specialize in abhuman affairs, staffed by officials who understand the unique requirements and capabilities of different genetic variants. These specialists serve as intermediaries between abhuman communities and broader imperial administration, helping to resolve conflicts and facilitate cooperation between genetically diverse populations. The military integration of multiple abhuman strains within Imperial Guard formations demonstrates both the potential benefits and practical challenges of managing genetically diverse military units. Combined abhuman formations that include Ratlings, Ogrens, and other genetic variants can provide complementary capabilities that exceed the effectiveness of single-strain units, but require specialized command structures and support systems that account for their different physiological requirements and cultural practices. The success of these integrated units depends heavily on the expertise and attitudes of their commanding officers, who must understand and accommodate the distinctive characteristics of each abhuman strain. The cultural exchange between different abhuman populations occurs primarily through military service, trade relationships, and shared experiences of discrimination that create bonds between genetically diverse communities. These interactions often lead to the adoption of beneficial practices from other abhuman cultures, with rattling communities sometimes incorporating Ogren strength training techniques or squat manufacturing methods that prove useful for their own purposes. The cross-cultural pollination that results from these interactions enriches all participating communities while strengthening the broader network of abhuman cooperation. The challenges faced by mixed abhuman families, where individuals from different genetic variants form relationships and produce offspring, highlight the complex genetic and social issues that arise from the diversity of human evolution across imperial space. These relationships must navigate not only the practical challenges of genetic compatibility, but also the social prejudices and legal uncertainties that surround inter-strain relationships. The children of such unions often face particular challenges in establishing their identity and place within imperial society, as they may inherit characteristics from multiple abhuman strains while not fully belonging to any single genetic community. The research conducted by imperial genetics specialists into abhuman populations serves multiple purposes, from monitoring genetic stability to identifying potential military applications for abhuman capabilities. Rattling communities typically cooperate with these research efforts, recognizing that scientific validation of their genetic stability and beneficial adaptations helps maintain their protected status within imperial society. However, this cooperation requires careful negotiation to ensure that research activities respect rattling cultural practices and do not compromise community autonomy or individual privacy rights. The long-term sustainability of abhuman integration into imperial society depends on maintaining the delicate balance between genetic diversity and imperial unity that has allowed these populations to thrive despite xenophobic pressures. Rattling communities understand that their continued acceptance requires ongoing demonstration of their loyalty and usefulness to the Imperium, while imperial authorities recognize that abhuman populations provide valuable capabilities that enhance overall imperial strength. This mutual dependence creates incentives for cooperation that help overcome cultural prejudices and maintain the pragmatic relationships that benefit all parties involved. The pervasive discrimination faced by ratlings throughout imperial space stems from deep-seated cultural attitudes that equate genetic purity with moral righteousness, creating systematic barriers to their full acceptance despite centuries of loyal military service and agricultural contributions. These prejudices manifest in countless daily interactions, from baseline human civilians who cross streets to avoid rattling neighborhoods to imperial officials who process abhuman paperwork with deliberate delays and bureaucratic obstruction. The visible differences in rattling appearance make them immediate targets for suspicion and hostility, as their diminutive stature and distinctive features mark them as genetically variant in societies where conformity to baseline human norms is often viewed as a measure of spiritual purity and imperial loyalty. The discrimination extends beyond mere social discomfort to encompass institutional policies that systematically disadvantage rattling communities in areas ranging from housing allocation to educational opportunities to commercial licensing. Imperial housing authorities frequently assign rattling families to substandard accommodations while citing space efficiency concerns, effectively segregating them into overcrowded districts that reinforce negative stereotypes about abhuman living conditions. Educational institutions on many imperial worlds maintain separate facilities for abhuman children or exclude them entirely from advanced programs, limiting their access to technical training that could enhance their contributions to imperial society. Commercial discrimination creates economic barriers that force rattling communities to develop parallel economic networks while limiting their participation in broader imperial markets. Baseline human merchants often refuse to conduct business with rattling traders, citing concerns about genetic contamination or religious purity that mask underlying prejudices about abhuman capabilities and trustworthiness. These discriminatory practices force rattling communities to rely heavily on internal trade networks and specialized relationships with Imperial Guard procurement officers who understand the value of their agricultural products and military expertise. The psychological impact of constant discrimination affects rattling communities in ways that extend far beyond immediate economic or social disadvantages, creating stress patterns that influence their cultural development and social organization. Rattling children growing up in hostile imperial environments often develop defensive behaviors and heightened group solidarity that can be misinterpreted by baseline humans as clannishness or unwillingness to integrate. The constant need to prove their loyalty and competence creates psychological pressures that affect individual self-esteem and community confidence, requiring strong cultural institutions to maintain social cohesion in the face of persistent external hostility. The administrative challenges confronting imperial bureaucrats responsible for managing rattling populations require specialized knowledge and equipment that many imperial institutions are reluctant to provide due to cost considerations and cultural resistance. Standard imperial forms and documentation systems assume baseline human physical characteristics, creating practical difficulties for rattling citizens attempting to navigate bureaucratic processes that were never designed to accommodate their unique requirements. Identity verification procedures that rely on biometric measurements calibrated for baseline humans often fail to accurately process rattling physiological data, creating delays and complications that can prevent access to essential services. Supply chain management for rattling military units presents logistical challenges that strain Imperial Guard procurement systems designed around standardized equipment and uniform requirements. The specialized gear required for rattling troops must be manufactured in limited quantities using modified production techniques that increase costs and complicate inventory management. Standard Imperial Guard supply depots rarely maintain adequate stocks of rattling-specific equipment, creating delays during deployment preparation that can compromise mission readiness and force rattling units to operate with suboptimal gear during critical operations. The procurement of appropriately sized uniforms, armor, and personal equipment for rattling troops requires separate manufacturing contracts and specialized production lines that many imperial suppliers view as economically inefficient. The reduced economies of scale associated with limited production runs result in significantly higher per unit costs for rattling equipment compared to standard Imperial Guard gear, creating budget pressures that some regimental commanders attempt to resolve by forcing rattling troops to utilize inadequate baseline human equipment. These cost-cutting measures compromise rattling combat effectiveness while creating safety hazards that can result in injuries or equipment failures during military operations. Equipment standardization efforts within the Imperial Guard face particular challenges when attempting to accommodate rattling physiological requirements while maintaining the interoperability and logistical efficiency that characterize imperial military systems. The development of scaled-down versions of standard imperial equipment requires extensive engineering modifications that must preserve functionality while adapting to different physical dimensions and operational requirements. These modifications often involve complete redesign of internal mechanisms rather than simple scaling, creating essentially new equipment types that require separate maintenance procedures and spare parts inventories. Medical care for rattling populations presents complex challenges that require specialized training and equipment that many imperial medical facilities lack due to limited exposure to human physiology and inadequate resource allocation for genetic variant populations. Standard imperial medical equipment is calibrated for baseline human anatomy, creating difficulties in accurately diagnosing and treating rattling patients whose physiological parameters differ significantly from established norms. Blood pressure measurements, heart rate monitoring, and metabolic assessments all require adjusted reference ranges that many imperial medical personnel have never learned, leading to misdiagnoses and inappropriate treatments that can compromise rattling health outcomes. The enhanced metabolic rates characteristic of rattling physiology require modified medical protocols that account for accelerated drug metabolism and altered nutritional requirements during illness and recovery. Standard imperial medications often prove ineffective for rattling patients due to their rapid processing of pharmaceutical compounds, requiring adjusted dosages and administration schedules that many imperial medical facilities are unprepared to provide. The specialized dietary requirements necessary for rattling recovery from illness or injury often conflict with standard imperial medical nutrition protocols, creating complications that can extend recovery periods and increase medical costs. Surgical procedures on rattling patients require specialized instruments and techniques that accommodate their compact anatomy while maintaining the precision necessary for successful outcomes. Standard imperial surgical equipment is often oversized for rattling physiology, requiring medical facilities to maintain separate instrument sets or modify existing tools to provide appropriate functionality. The training required for imperial medical personnel to safely operate on rattling patients represents an additional cost that many facilities are reluctant to absorb, particularly in regions where rattling populations are small and medical encounters are infrequent. The constant threat of political persecution looms over all abhuman populations within the Imperium, as shifts in imperial policy or local political attitudes can rapidly transform accepted genetic variants into targeted minorities facing systematic oppression or extermination. The historical precedents for abhuman persecution include numerous instances where previously tolerated populations faced sudden policy reversals that resulted in forced relocations, sterilization programs, or outright elimination campaigns justified by religious or genetic purity concerns. These historical examples create persistent anxiety within rattling communities, who understand that their current protected status depends on political factors that could change without warning. Regional political variations in abhuman treatment create uncertainty for rattling communities that must navigate different legal frameworks and social attitudes when traveling between imperial territories or dealing with visiting officials from other sectors. Some imperial governors maintain progressive policies that actively support abhuman integration and economic development, while others implement restrictive measures that limit abhuman rights and opportunities in response to local political pressures or personal prejudices. These inconsistencies create challenges for rattling communities attempting to plan long-term development projects or establish trade relationships that span multiple imperial jurisdictions. The influence of extremist political movements within imperial society poses particular threats to abhuman populations, as these groups often advocate for genetic purity policies that would eliminate or severely restrict genetic variant communities. These movements gain support during times of economic hardship or military crisis by scapegoating abhuman populations for broader imperial problems, claiming that genetic variants drain resources or compromise military effectiveness despite evidence to the contrary. The political mobilization of anti-abhuman sentiment can rapidly translate into discriminatory legislation or violent persecution that threatens the safety and survival of entire rattling communities. The internal struggles faced by rattling communities in maintaining their cultural identity while adapting to imperial military doctrine create tensions that affect individual psychology and community cohesion in complex ways. The cooperative social structures and consensus-based decision-making that characterize traditional rattling society often conflict with the hierarchical command structures and individual accountability emphasized by Imperial Guard training. Young rattlings entering military service must learn to navigate these cultural differences while maintaining connections to their home communities and preserving the cultural values that define their identity. The pressure to assimilate into baseline human military culture can create identity conflicts for rattling soldiers who must balance loyalty to the emperor with preservation of their distinctive cultural practices and social relationships. Military training emphasizes individual achievement and competitive advancement that may conflict with traditional rattling values of community cooperation and shared success. The extended periods of military service required by Imperial Guard commitments can weaken connections to home communities, creating difficulties for returning veterans who must reintegrate into civilian society after years of exposure to different cultural norms and expectations. The adaptation of traditional rattling social structures to imperial military requirements often requires compromises that can undermine community cohesion and cultural continuity. The selection of individuals for military service based on marksmanship ability rather than traditional social criteria can disrupt established leadership patterns and create tensions between military veterans and civilian community leaders. The economic benefits associated with military service can create class divisions within rattling communities that conflict with traditional egalitarian values and cooperative social organization. The preservation of rattling cultural practices within Imperial Guard units requires constant negotiation between abhuman traditions and military regulations that were designed for baseline human populations. The dietary requirements and meal scheduling preferences that form crucial elements of rattling social bonding must be adapted to military logistics systems that prioritize efficiency over cultural accommodation. The preparation and sharing of traditional foods that maintain cultural connections often conflicts with military security protocols and standardized ration distribution systems. The language preservation challenges faced by rattling communities reflect broader cultural pressures that threaten the transmission of traditional knowledge and social practices across generations. Many rattling communities maintain distinctive dialects or languages that developed during their isolation from broader human civilization, but imperial educational systems and military service requirements emphasize Gothic proficiency that can gradually displace traditional linguistic heritage. The loss of traditional languages threatens the preservation of agricultural knowledge, cultural stories, and social practices that are encoded in linguistic structures that have no direct Gothic equivalents. The religious adaptation required of rattling communities to participate in imperial cult observances often creates internal conflicts between traditional spiritual practices and imperial religious requirements. Many rattling communities maintain traditional beliefs and practices that developed during their isolation from broader imperial society, but participation in imperial religious ceremonies and acceptance of imperial theological doctrines is often required for full social and political integration. The reconciliation of traditional spiritual practices with imperial religious requirements requires careful negotiation that preserves cultural authenticity while demonstrating appropriate loyalty to imperial religious authority. The generational tensions that develop within rattling communities between traditional elders and younger individuals who have been exposed to broader imperial culture create ongoing challenges for community leadership and cultural continuity. Older community members often view imperial cultural influences as threats to traditional values and social structures, while younger rattlings may embrace imperial opportunities and cultural practices that offer broader horizons and advancement possibilities. These generational differences can create conflicts over community priorities, resource allocation, and cultural preservation efforts that require careful management to maintain social cohesion. The economic pressures associated with imperial integration force rattling communities to balance traditional agricultural practices with commercial requirements that may conflict with sustainable farming methods or cultural values. The demand for increased agricultural production to meet imperial tithe requirements can pressure communities to adopt intensive farming techniques that compromise long-term soil health or environmental sustainability. The commercial relationships required for imperial integration may force communities to prioritize cash crops over traditional food varieties that maintain cultural connections and nutritional diversity. The specialized weaponry employed by rattling forces represents decades of careful adaptation and modification of standard imperial armaments to accommodate their unique physiological characteristics while maximizing their natural marksmanship advantages. The primary weapon system used by Rattling snipers is the Long Laws rifle, extensively modified from its baseline human configuration to provide optimal performance for diminutive marksmen operating under diverse combat conditions. These modifications begin with fundamental alterations to the weapon's stock assembly, which requires complete reconstruction rather than simple scaling to accommodate the dramatically different body proportions and arm length of Rattling operators. The stock modifications involve shortening the overall length by approximately 30% while maintaining the structural integrity necessary to handle the weapon's recoil forces and provide stable shooting platforms for precision marksmanship. The buttstock receives custom padding and adjustment mechanisms that allow individual Rattlings to configure the weapon for their specific physical dimensions, accounting for variations in torso length, arm reach, and shoulder width that can differ significantly even among members of the same subspecies. The grip sections are reshaped to accommodate smaller hands while providing the ergonomic support necessary for extended shooting sessions that may last several hours during reconnaissance or overwatch operations. Trigger mechanisms undergo complete redesign to match the finger length and hand strength characteristics of Rattling operators, with pull weights adjusted to provide consistent activation while preventing accidental discharge during movement or position changes. The trigger guard receives modification to accommodate the different finger positioning required by Rattling hand anatomy, while the safety mechanisms are relocated and resized to ensure reliable operation by operators wearing the specialized gloves designed for their compact hands. These modifications require precision manufacturing techniques that maintain the reliability standards expected of Imperial military equipment while adapting to the specific requirements of abhuman physiology. The optical sighting systems mounted on Rattling Long Laws rifles require extensive modification to account for their enhanced natural vision and the different head positioning that results from their compact stature. Standard Imperial scopes often provide excessive magnification for Rattling use, as their superior visual acuity allows them to identify and engage targets at ranges where baseline humans would require optical assistance. Modified scope systems provide variable magnification settings that allow Rattlings to adapt to different engagement scenarios while taking advantage of their natural visual capabilities for target identification and range estimation. The scope mounting systems receive adjustment to accommodate the different eye relief distances and head positioning that characterize Rattling shooting positions. The height and angle of scope mounts must be precisely calibrated to align with Rattling eye position when assuming proper shooting stance, while maintaining the durability necessary to withstand combat conditions and weapon recoil forces. These mounting systems often incorporate micro-adjustment capabilities that allow individual operators to fine-tune their optical alignment for maximum accuracy during extended shooting sessions. Compact sniper systems developed specifically for Rattling use represent advanced engineering solutions that maintain full-size weapon performance while reducing overall dimensions and weight to match their physical capabilities. These weapons utilize advanced materials and manufacturing techniques that achieve weight reductions of up to 40% compared to standard Imperial sniper rifles while maintaining equivalent ballistic performance and reliability standards. The barrel assemblies employ specialized steel alloys and manufacturing processes that provide optimal accuracy while reducing overall weapon mass and improving balance characteristics for Rattling operators. The compact sniper systems incorporate modular design principles that allow rapid configuration changes to adapt weapons for different mission requirements and environmental conditions. Barrel assemblies can be quickly exchanged to provide different ballistic characteristics for various engagement ranges and target types, while stock configurations can be adjusted or replaced to accommodate different shooting positions and concealment requirements. The modular approach reduces the logistical burden of supporting Rattling units while providing tactical flexibility that enhances their operational effectiveness across across diverse combat scenarios. Personalized targeting equipment represents perhaps the most sophisticated aspect of Ratling weapon systems, incorporating advanced Imperial technology with custom modifications that take advantage of their exceptional hand-eye coordination and visual processing capabilities. These systems include range-finding devices that integrate with their natural depth perception abilities to provide precise distance measurements without requiring external laser systems that might reveal sniper positions to enemy detection equipment. The range-finding technology utilizes passive optical systems that analyze target characteristics and environmental conditions to calculate accurate firing solutions. The ballistic computers integrated into advanced Ratling targeting systems process environmental data, including wind speed, humidity, temperature, and atmospheric pressure, to generate firing solutions that account for all factors affecting projectile trajectory over extended ranges. These systems interface with the enhanced proprioceptive awareness characteristic of Ratling physiology to provide targeting information through tactile feedback systems that do not compromise their natural shooting instincts or require visual attention that might distract from target observation. The integration of technological assistance with natural Ratling abilities creates targeting capabilities that exceed those achievable by either human technology or abhuman biology alone. The development of scaled armor systems for Ratling forces required complete redesign of Imperial protective equipment to provide equivalent protection levels while accommodating their compact physiology and specialized operational requirements. Standard Imperial flak armor proves unsuitable for Ratling use due to both size considerations and the mobility requirements of their reconnaissance and sniper roles, necessitating the creation of specialized protective systems that balance protection against weight and flexibility constraints. The scaled armor systems utilize advanced materials that provide superior protection to weight ratios compared to standard Imperial armor, while maintaining the durability necessary for extended field operations. The armor design emphasizes protection of vital areas while providing maximum mobility for the stealth operations that characterize Ratling tactical employment. The torso protection focuses on coverage of critical organs while allowing full range of motion for shooting positions and equipment manipulation, with articulated joint systems that accommodate the different proportional relationships between body segments that distinguish Ratling anatomy from baseline human physiology. The helmet systems require complete redesign to accommodate different head shapes and proportions, while providing equivalent protection and integration with communication and targeting systems. Specialized rations developed for Ratling forces address their enhanced metabolic requirements while providing the nutritional content necessary to maintain their exceptional physical capabilities during extended combat operations. The standard Imperial Guard ration packs prove inadequate for Ratling use due to their higher caloric requirements and more frequent feeding schedules, necessitating the development of specialized food systems that provide appropriate nutrition while maintaining the shelf stability and portability required for military logistics. These specialized rations contain approximately 60% more calories per day compared to standard Imperial rations, while maintaining equivalent weight and storage volume through advanced food processing techniques. The nutritional composition of Ratling rations emphasizes the high protein and complex carbohydrate content necessary to support their enhanced metabolism, while providing the steady energy release required for extended periods of concentration during sniper operations. The rations include specialized supplements that support their exceptional visual acuity and hand-eye coordination, with nutrients that maintain optimal nervous system function and prevent the fatigue that can compromise marksmanship accuracy during prolonged engagements. The meal scheduling accommodates their requirement for more frequent feeding, while providing foods that can be consumed quietly during stealth operations without compromising concealment. Equipment designed for enhanced metabolism support includes specialized hydration systems that account for the increased fluid requirements associated with rattling metabolic rates while providing the electrolyte balance necessary to maintain optimal physical performance. These hydration systems incorporate advanced filtration technology that allows ratlings to safely consume water from diverse sources encountered during reconnaissance operations, reducing their dependence on supply lines while maintaining the hydration levels necessary for their enhanced physiological functions. The hydration systems integrate with their personal equipment to provide convenient access without requiring movement that might compromise concealment or shooting positions. Communication systems adapted for rattling use represent sophisticated modifications of standard Imperial Vox equipment that accommodate their physical characteristics while maintaining full interoperability with broader Imperial Guard communication networks. The Vox units require resizing of handsets and control interfaces to match rattling hand dimensions, while preserving the durability and reliability standards expected of military communication equipment. The headset systems undergo complete redesign to accommodate different head shapes and ear positioning, while providing clear audio reception and transmission capabilities that support their reconnaissance and coordination functions. The communication protocols developed for rattling units emphasize their role as forward observers and intelligence gatherers, with specialized procedures that maximize the value of their reconnaissance information while maintaining operational security. These protocols include standardized reporting formats that efficiently communicate target information, enemy dispositions, and environmental conditions to command elements and supporting units. The communication systems incorporate encryption capabilities that protect sensitive intelligence while allowing rapid transmission of time-critical information during dynamic combat situations. Coordination protocols adapted for rattling reconnaissance specialists establish clear procedures for information sharing and tactical coordination that maximize their effectiveness as force multipliers within larger Imperial Guard formations. These protocols define the relationships between rattling observation teams and artillery units, establishing procedures for target designation and fire mission coordination that take advantage of their exceptional target identification capabilities. The coordination systems include provisions for emergency extraction and support that account for the vulnerability of small rattling teams operating in forward positions behind enemy lines. The integration of rattling communication systems with Imperial Guard command networks requires specialized interface equipment that translates between different communication protocols while maintaining the security standards required for military operations. These interface systems allow rattling teams to communicate directly with supporting artillery units, air support elements, and command posts while preserving the tactical flexibility necessary for their independent operations. The communication networks include redundant pathways and backup systems that ensure continued contact even when primary communication systems are compromised by enemy action or equipment failure. Maintenance considerations for supporting rattling equipment in the field present unique challenges that require specialized technical knowledge and modified maintenance procedures adapted to their equipment specifications. The custom modifications applied to rattling weapons and equipment create maintenance requirements that differ significantly from standard Imperial Guard procedures, necessitating the training of specialized technicians who understand the unique characteristics of abhuman equipment systems. These maintenance specialists must be familiar with the modified trigger mechanisms, optical systems, and structural adaptations that distinguish rattling equipment from standard Imperial gear. The spare parts inventory required to support rattling equipment includes numerous components that are not interchangeable with standard Imperial Guard equipment, creating logistical challenges that require careful planning and coordination with specialized suppliers. The modified trigger assemblies, custom optical mounts, and scaled armor components require separate production runs and inventory management systems that account for their limited demand and specialized manufacturing requirements. The maintenance schedules for rattling equipment must account for the different wear patterns and stress factors that result from their modified configurations and specialized operational employment. Supply considerations for extended campaigns involving rattling units require careful planning that accounts for their specialized equipment needs and enhanced metabolic requirements while maintaining the logistical efficiency necessary for military operations far from their homeworlds. The supply chains must accommodate the specialized rations, medical supplies, and equipment components required to maintain rattling operational effectiveness during campaigns that may last months or years in hostile environments. These supply requirements often necessitate dedicated logistics support that can complicate overall campaign planning and resource allocation. The transportation of rattling-specific supplies presents challenges related to the specialized storage requirements for their equipment and rations, while maintaining the security and reliability necessary for military logistics operations. The compact nature of much rattling equipment allows for efficient packing and transport, but the specialized components and modified systems require careful handling and protection during shipment to prevent damage that could compromise their operational effectiveness. The supply transportation systems must account for the different environmental requirements of rattling rations and medical supplies while maintaining the delivery schedules necessary to support ongoing combat operations. Extended campaign support for rattling units operating far from their homeworlds requires comprehensive logistics planning that addresses not only their immediate supply needs, but also the long-term maintenance and replacement requirements for their specialized equipment systems. The isolation from rattling manufacturing centers and technical support facilities creates dependencies on Imperial Guard logistics networks that may lack the specialized knowledge and components necessary to maintain abhuman equipment at optimal performance levels. These challenges require advanced planning and stockpiling of critical components while developing alternative maintenance procedures that can be implemented using available Imperial Guard resources. The medical support requirements for rattling units during extended campaigns include specialized medical supplies and equipment adapted to their physiology while providing the expertise necessary to address their unique health requirements in field conditions. The medical kits designed for rattling use contain medications and equipment scaled for their body mass and metabolic characteristics, while addressing the specific health risks associated with their operational roles and environmental exposures. The medical support personnel assigned to rattling units require specialized training in abhuman physiology and the medical challenges associated with their enhanced metabolic rates and specialized dietary requirements. The field modification capabilities developed for rattling equipment allow for adaptation and repair of their specialized systems using available materials and tools when normal supply chains are disrupted or unavailable. These modification procedures enable rattling units to maintain operational effectiveness even when separated from specialized support facilities, utilizing their natural mechanical aptitude and problem-solving abilities to adapt their equipment for changing operational requirements. The field modification techniques include procedures for adjusting weapon configurations, repairing damaged equipment, and creating improvised solutions that maintain their tactical capabilities under adverse conditions. The current position of rattling populations within the Imperium reflects a precarious balance between their demonstrated value and the mounting pressures that threaten all abhuman strains in the increasingly xenophobic atmosphere of the 41st millennium. As the galaxy burns with conflicts on an unprecedented scale, the scrutiny directed toward genetic variants has intensified dramatically, with Imperial authorities implementing increasingly stringent purity assessments and genetic monitoring programs that subject rattling communities to regular inspections and documentation requirements. These measures, ostensibly designed to ensure genetic stability and prevent mutation, create administrative burdens that strain community resources while generating anxiety about potential policy changes that could threaten their protected status. The enhanced surveillance protocols implemented across many sectors require rattling communities to submit detailed genetic records and population assessments to imperial authorities on increasingly frequent schedules, with some regions demanding quarterly reports that document birth rates, genetic variations, and any instances of potential mutation or instability. These reporting requirements force communities to maintain extensive documentation systems that divert resources from agricultural production and community development, while creating databases that could potentially be used to target abhuman populations during future policy shifts. The genetic sampling programs associated with these assessments often require individual ratlings to undergo medical examinations that many view as invasive and degrading, creating tensions between community leaders seeking to maintain good relations with imperial authorities and citizens concerned about their privacy and dignity. Regional variations in abhuman policy implementation create a patchwork of different treatment standards that force rattling communities to navigate increasingly complex legal and administrative frameworks that can change without warning based on local political developments or shifts in imperial doctrine. Some sectors maintain relatively tolerant policies that recognize the continued value of abhuman contributions to imperial strength, while others implement restrictive measures that limit rattling movement, economic activities, and social interactions with baseline human populations. These inconsistencies create uncertainty for long-term planning and force communities to develop contingency strategies that can adapt to rapidly changing political conditions. The influence of extremist factions within imperial society poses an escalating threat to abhuman populations, as economic hardships and military defeats create scapegoating opportunities that target genetic variants as convenient explanations for broader imperial failures. These movements gain political traction by promoting simplified narratives that blame abhuman populations for resource drains, military inefficiencies, or spiritual corruption that allegedly weakens imperial resistance to chaos and Xenos threats. The political mobilization of anti-abhuman sentiment has already resulted in discriminatory legislation in several sectors, with some regions implementing travel restrictions, economic sanctions, and social segregation policies that effectively isolate rattling communities from broader imperial society. Chaos corruption represents perhaps the most serious existential threat facing rattling populations, as their stable genetic structure and strong community bonds make them attractive targets for chaos cults seeking to demonstrate their power through the corruption of previously pure human populations. The agricultural abundance and peaceful lifestyle that characterizes most rattling worlds creates vulnerability to chaos infiltration, as their communities often lack the paranoid vigilance and defensive preparations that protect more militarized imperial populations from subversive influences. Several rattling worlds have already fallen to chaos corruption, with entire populations transformed into twisted parodies of their former selves that serve as horrifying examples of what can happen when abhuman communities fail to maintain adequate spiritual and physical defenses. The corruption of rattling populations by chaos forces follows predictable patterns that exploit their cultural emphasis on community cooperation and shared prosperity to introduce heretical concepts that gradually undermine their loyalty to the emperor. Chaos cults often begin their infiltration by offering agricultural improvements or enhanced food production techniques that appeal to rattling cultural values, while subtly introducing corrupting influences that slowly poison community relationships and spiritual beliefs. The transformation process can take decades to complete, making detection difficult until the corruption has spread throughout entire communities and created self-sustaining heretical movements that actively work to spread their influence to other rattling populations. The response to chaos corruption within rattling territories has required the deployment of specialized imperial forces trained in abhuman community dynamics and the particular vulnerabilities that make these populations susceptible to heretical influence. These operations often involve extensive purification campaigns that can devastate entire regions while attempting to root out corrupting influences that have become deeply embedded within community structures. The collateral damage associated with anti-chaos operations creates additional challenges for surviving rattling communities, who must rebuild their social structures and economic systems, while demonstrating their continued loyalty to imperial authorities, who may view all abhumans with increased suspicion following corruption incidents. Xeno's incursions into rattling territories present different but equally serious threats to their continued survival and prosperity, as their agricultural worlds represent attractive targets for various alien species seeking resources or strategic positions within imperial space. Orc invasions pose particular dangers to rattling communities, as their peaceful agricultural lifestyle provides little preparation for the brutal warfare that characterizes greenskin attacks. The compact size and limited physical strength of ratlings make them vulnerable to orc assault tactics, while their agricultural infrastructure represents valuable resources that orc forces seek to capture and exploit for their own purposes. The defensive preparations implemented by rattling communities in response to increasing Xeno's threats require significant modifications to their traditional social structures and resource allocation priorities, as peaceful agricultural societies must develop military capabilities and defensive infrastructure while maintaining the food production that forms the foundation of their economic contributions to the Imperium. These adaptations often involve the construction of fortified compounds and underground shelters that can protect civilian populations during Xeno's attacks, while training programs teach basic defensive skills to community members who have no previous military experience. Tyrannid incursions represent an existential threat that could completely eliminate rattling populations from affected regions, as the biological consumption patterns of hive fleets leave no survivors and convert all organic matter into biomass for the swarm. The early warning systems developed for tyrannid detection often prove inadequate for protecting isolated agricultural worlds, while the defensive capabilities of most rattling communities are completely insufficient to resist even minor tyrannid infiltration organisms. The speed and thoroughness of tyrannid consumption means that evacuation represents the only viable survival strategy, but the logistical challenges of relocating entire agricultural communities often exceed available imperial transportation resources. The strategic importance of rattling worlds within the broader imperial defensive framework has become increasingly apparent as supply lines stretch across vast distances and agricultural production becomes critical for sustaining military operations in multiple theaters simultaneously. The exceptional productivity of rattling agricultural systems makes their worlds valuable strategic assets that imperial commanders cannot afford to lose, while their specialized military capabilities provide reconnaissance and precision fire support that proves crucial in many combat scenarios. This strategic value provides some protection against discriminatory policies, as practical military considerations often override ideological concerns about genetic purity when operational effectiveness is at stake. The integration of rattling agricultural expertise into broader imperial food security planning has created dependencies that extend far beyond their immediate territorial boundaries, with their farming techniques and crop varieties being adopted across multiple sectors to improve overall imperial agricultural productivity. These relationships create networks of mutual dependence that strengthen arguments for continued rattling protection, while providing practical benefits that help justify the resources devoted to supporting abhuman populations. The loss of rattling agricultural knowledge would significantly impact imperial food security at a time when increasing military demands strain production capabilities across all sectors. Military recruitment from rattling populations continues to provide specialized capabilities that remain in high demand despite increasing scrutiny of abhuman loyalty and reliability. The exceptional marksmanship skills and natural stealth abilities of Rattling soldiers create tactical advantages that cannot be easily replaced by baseline human troops or technological alternatives, making their military contributions essential for many types of operations. The volunteer-based recruitment system that characterizes Rattling military service ensures high motivation levels and unit cohesion that often exceeds that found in conscript-based Imperial Guard regiments, creating military units that consistently perform above average despite their small numbers. The ongoing stability of the Rattling genome continues to provide strong scientific evidence supporting their classification as a stable abhuman strain rather than a dangerous mutant population, with genetic monitoring programs consistently documenting the hereditary nature of their adaptations and their continued compatibility with baseline human populations. This genetic stability represents their strongest defense against discriminatory policies, as imperial doctrine recognizes the distinction between stable genetic variants and dangerous mutations that threaten human genetic integrity. The scientific documentation of Rattling genetic characteristics provides objective evidence that counters ideological arguments for their elimination or restriction. Recent genetic studies conducted by the Adeptus Archives have confirmed that Rattling populations show no tendency toward further rapid evolution or genetic instability that might justify reclassification as dangerous mutants, with their adaptive characteristics remaining consistent across multiple generations and geographic populations. These studies provide crucial scientific support for maintaining their protected status within imperial law while demonstrating their continued value as productive imperial citizens. The genetic research also confirms their continued fertility with baseline humans, maintaining one of the key criteria for abhuman classification that distinguishes them from truly alien populations. The demographic trends within Rattling populations show stable birth rates and healthy population growth that suggests their communities remain viable and self-sustaining despite the various pressures they face from discrimination, military recruitment, and external threats. These demographic indicators provide evidence of community resilience and social stability that supports arguments for continued imperial investment in their protection and development. The maintenance of stable population levels ensures that Rattling communities can continue to provide agricultural production and military recruitment while preserving their cultural traditions and social structures. The role of Rattlings in humanity's ongoing struggle for survival has evolved to encompass not only their traditional contributions in agriculture and military service, but also their function as symbols of human adaptability and the benefits of genetic diversity within controlled parameters. Their successful adaptation to diverse environments demonstrates humanity's capacity for beneficial evolution that enhances rather than threatens human capabilities, providing examples of how genetic variation can strengthen rather than weaken human populations. This symbolic importance extends beyond their immediate practical contributions to encompass broader questions about human identity and the acceptable limits of genetic diversity within imperial society. The preservation of Rattling communities represents a test case for imperial policies toward genetic variance, with their treatment serving as an indicator of broader imperial attitudes toward diversity and adaptation within human populations. The success or failure of Rattling integration efforts influences policies toward other abhuman strains while establishing precedents that could affect millions of genetic variant humans throughout imperial space. Their continued survival and prosperity demonstrates that genetic diversity and imperial unity can coexist when proper policies and attitudes are maintained. The future prospects for Rattling populations depend largely on their ability to continue demonstrating their value to the Imperium while adapting to increasingly challenging political and military environments that threaten all abhuman communities. Their survival requires maintaining the delicate balance between preserving their distinctive cultural identity and adapting to imperial requirements that may conflict with traditional practices and values. The success of this adaptation process will determine whether rattling communities can maintain their protected status and continue contributing to imperial strength, or whether they will join the countless human populations that have been consumed by the galaxy's escalating conflicts and increasing xenophobic pressures that characterize the Dark Millennium, in which humanity struggles for survival against overwhelming odds.